All right, so welcome to the Cheech and Manny Music Podcast. We have another exciting show for you. So, and Cheech, I don't know if you want to explain our little problem because we kind of recorded this episode already, but something happened.
Yeah, we recorded it last week when I was very sick. Now I'm just sick, but I'm able to do this. And we kept freezing up and everything, and there was a problem. So now we're
Right.
redoing the show. And hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed. We won't have
Yeah.
any problems. And going to be on. I don't know if Manny, if you said you want to say who it's going to be on. We haven't.
Yes. Dude, I'm so excited because I saw the movie on New Year's Eve with my folks, and I will say it's probably the one of the best movies I saw this year.
Wow.
For sure, bar none. Which I'm kind of confused with some of the critic ratings. They kind of gave it a okay rating.
Yeah, they always give, you know. Well, I
I
wonder what
disagree.
I'm curious to see what Rolling Stone would have.
That's actually I did not check out their review. I just saw the consensus, and they gave it like a 73 out of 100. I disagree with that completely.
Rolling Stone. Oh, just a consent.
No, my this website I use called Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, I know that
For
one. Yeah.
what they do, they rank movies. I gotta check out Rolling Stone to see what they thought.
If Rolling Stone gives it a rating, oh man, that's horrible. Yeah.
Dude, but anyway, let me introduce this legend. Mr.
Yes.
Bob Dylan Zimmerman, and this whole episode is going to be on his album, bringing it all back home to 1965. I'm really excited for this because Cheech, I'm a huge Dylan fan, like next to the
Oh,
Beatles,
yeah, yeah. And
and this,
I'm a big Dylan fan, but you like Rush. I've learned so much from you about Bob Dylan. Like I got into Dylan as a kid. Listening to all the hits from my parents and stuff, and I always loved Dylan. Actually, did play not considered folk rock, but it was acoustic with a bass player. Did that with
oh, actually share that story because that's you were telling me at the temple, and I think that's very interesting. Go ahead,
so there's
your
two experiences, and and me being like a metal guy, you're used to cranking in, playing loud.
Well, I was gonna say, do metalheads listen to Dylan?
Phil Lynott did from Thin
Yep.
Lizzy. Oh, and he was one of his biggest inspirations. But first time was with this guy Ronnie Wisdom way back in the day. He said we're gonna do an acoustic set, and I did acoustic sets before that, and I was like, this shit is boring. I don't want
It's crazy, dude. I don't see you doing acoustic sets.
to. So it depends on who you. I did it with my cousin. Like we would have jam fires and campfire jams and things. But with this guy Ronnie Wisdom, we had an acoustic set, and then we had an electric set. So when we weren't playing electric, we'd go out and do acoustic. It was just bass and drums. I mean, bass and guitar, acoustic, based off of Hot Tuna, Yarma, and Jack Cassidy. If you're from
Mm.
them, it was like that kind of thing. Then I actually did a real, uh, like Bob Dylan thing. I think the kid's name was Dylan a few years ago in a past life. Um, I did like 2 or 3 gigs with this really young kid who was a protest writer, and he asked me to play bass. Really talented, great songwriter. Got a little too heavy on the protest, against a certain president. And I was like, dude, I'm into the protest shit when we're playing. Okay. 'Cause I don't want to get hit in the head. I don't want people to music is cool, but the protest is great. But I don't want to get hit in the face with a beer bottle, by some crazy motherfucker. But it was fun. And it made me be busy, very busy on the bass. I had to fill up a lot of space, and the kid made me take bass solo, so it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do. You see more and more of it. So, but quick question. So Manny, you come to my house with a 12 pack of uh Dogfish. What is it called?
Dogfish 60 minute, it's fantastic beer.
Dogfish 60 minute 12 packs. And I say to you, Manny, what do you want to hear? This is what I want to hear. I have 2 albums. I have Bring It All Back Home by Bob Dylan, and I have Kendrick Lamar. Anyone, you pick it. And then maybe we'll throw Power Slave after we're good and drunk. Who do you want to hear?
I'll be honest with you. If beer is involved, I am putting on Bob Dylan's "Bringing It All Back Home." That's right, we're talking about this, and without you know voicing my opinion on certain things, but I don't know. Like I
Hold on,
would not put a
hold on. Bring the mic down a little bit.
right now.
Yeah, 21st century schizoid man is gone.
um, yeah, man. But I'm putting on "Bringing It All Back Home" because
Yeah.
I've been listening to the album nonstop. Or if I've made it records nearby. Now, obviously, Rush is nearby. Rush is
Oh,
or Genesis for me.
yeah, yeah. Foxtrot.
But I'll be honest with you, Bob Dylan is quickly going up to the top of the charts. If I saw Kendrick Lamar's new album or Bob Dylan's, masterpiece, I'm reaching for that masterpiece, man.
And I gotta say, you sent me a reel of Maggie's Farm. That's fucking metal.
Dude, talk about, so you as being a metalhead. Now, I'm definitely a metalhead, but you're definitely more of the metalhead than me.
Yeah.
How punk and metal was this dude in 1965?
I think he invented it.
Did you see the jacket he was wearing?
Yep. I think he's an innovator. I mean, the Kinks invented it, what you really got me with that heavy riff and then obviously the Who, 1965. That was so like
Well, Cheech, Bob Dylan influenced the Who.
of course, yeah.
So that's what's crazy about that.
So like he might be the innovator of all the hard music, punk included, because
I think so.
and the guitar work, and that was the Hawks backing him up, which was the band, right? That performance.
Well, not even. First of all, that's Mike Bloomfield.
Oh, no wonder that
So, and you saw him tear up that guitar
on fire, on fire.
and his backing band, and it's funny. We'll talk about the context of that performance, but dude, he pretty much was saying "F you" to the Folk Festival.
It was.
Because
And Mike Bloomfield, I think it's called Season of the Witch. I think he's on that album with Al Cooper. Mike Bloomfield, phenomenal guitar player. I think he died young. A lot of people, only the hardcore blues guys know who he is. Paul Butterfield,
Dylan fans like myself,
obviously,
because his guitar work on those Dylan records is insane. It's dirty. It's rock and roll.
got Blonde on Blonde. I think he was on.
Yep. It was funny. Blonde on Blonde used him and also members of the Hawks that are going to become the band, right? And it was funny. I was looking at something interesting. The Basement Tapes.
Yes, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So apparently Bob Dylan kind of formed the band's sound, and the evidence is on the Basement Tapes. But my point is, Bob Dylan, dude. Let me be honest with you, in like terms of like metal music, punk music, folk music, because we're going to talk about his invention of folk rock. Like,
the guy is the Renaissance man of all this. He took it to the next level. He just that performance is like so sick, and that
dude, I've been obsessed with that performance.
yeah, so good, so amazing. So let's jump right in. We'll jump into the show. So we're gonna be talking about Bring It All Back Home, 1965, but mainly we're gonna talk a little bit about Bob Dylan. So mainly we're gonna break down Bring It All Back Home, but let's talk about that album that year, 1965. So what albums came out in that year that he was up against? Like we do in every episode, and your great karaoke piece to me about a half hour ago. The Beach Boys Today came out, and that's a great album. And just the thing, if you don't know who Carol Kay is, check her out from the Wrecking Crew. She's on all that California.
And can we talk about how she's a female bass player?
And
that is crazy. And she played, her playing on the Beach Boys. I'm a huge Beach Boys fan too. Is insane. So underrated.
Like I think they were showing a clip of one of the songs off of Pet Sounds, and she had a muting technique like nobody. Yeah, James in Detroit. You had Carol Kay and Joe Osborne out in California. Jerry Jamont on Atlantic. So you had oh God, what's the guy's name from Muscle Shoals? I should be shot right now. Tommy Coghill and then another player. So there were these pockets of sounds that these bass players and these bands had their own like pit band that would back up everybody. Carol Kay not only did the Beach Boys, she did the Mamas and the Papas, and David Hood. That's the other bass player from Muscle Shoals. And all these bass players had a unique sound, like nobody. James Jamerson, Jerry Jamont, David Hood, Billy Cobble, Carol Kay. I think Jamerson and Carol Kay were the most unique. She had a picked bass sound, like different than Chris Squire, but like its own.
Yeah, yeah. No, hey, let me tell you, when you listen to some of the Beach Boys stuff, I'll be honest, like again, I don't know if you're a Beach Boys fan, Cheech. Huge fan. One of my favorite records is Pet Sounds, and the album that you just mentioned, the Beach Boys Today, which I think is their masterpiece, along with Pet Sounds. But the bass on that, and especially on the song Good Vibrations, I was listening to that. I thought it was one of the Beach Boys. And then it's funny, I've been knowing this, that, her Kay's influence. And that's why I saw that reel on Instagram. I was like, Cheech, let me send this to a bass player.
I love it. The Beach Boys, I love. My parents always played them around the house. They were cool until they got involved with Charles Manson.
Yeah, awkward. And they have one of the best Christmas albums.
Yeah, definitely.
And one of the best. Their harmonies are insane, man.
Oh, I mean, it's like Alice in Chains on, the future of like, bizarre, because Alice in Chains has bizarre harmonies.
They do.
Harmonies.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought of that when I heard Alice in Chains. I was like, kind of remind me of the Beach Boys if you took wads and wads.
Yeah.
Something, you know what I mean? But so today, then you have the greatest band, the Beatles, Rubber. I mean, Jesus, how do you compete?
One of my favorites. I think it's one of my personal favorites, and just the fact that they released this, because at this point they were changing their sound.
Yes, yeah, they were getting
so
very like more psychedelic, almost getting into that.
Yep. Even from the album cover, you know how it's a little distorted because of the influence of the times.
Oh yeah. The Byrds, Turn, Turn, Turn. Amazing album, and they're connected to Dylan, and we'll talk about that. With their Rickenbacker guitars. Then one of my all-time favorite bands, your all-time favorite bands, The Who, My Generation, 1965. This comes out.
Crazy.
That's fucking heavy. That bass solo in My Generation.
It's a heavy record. No, and they had that iconic performance on TV where they're just stringing their guitars after doing a performance of My Generation. It's crazy. And we'll talk about it, but Dylan had an influence on that song, My Generation.
Yeah, definitely. And the bass solo. I think it's one of the first like recorded real bass solos that like insane. Another band I love, who passed away, Love and Spoonful. Do You Believe in Magic? Now, John Sebastian came up with Dylan in that Greenwich Village scene in the early 60s. Yardbirds. I didn't realize the Yardbirds went this far back, 65.
Oh, for your love, right?
Yep. Rave It Up with the Birds.
Yep.
Johnny Rivers, Rocks, Folk, and Barry McGuire, Eve of Destruction. So those.
That's a great song. That's a great political song. Actually, probably one of the best political songs. But
really, I gotta get into that. Now,
Dylan. I heard that song at school actually.
Oh, okay.
My phenomenal civics teacher put it on in order for him to teach about this era, the Vietnam War, civil rights movement, and it's an apocalyptic song. It's dark.
Wow, crazy. Okay.
And then Cheech, just a few more of my favorites of this time. John Coltrane's "A Love Supreme."
Oh yeah.
Which is one of his biggest albums of the time.
No.
The Kinks also, I know you talked about this, but they released several records already at this time.
You really
the British invasion was happening. The Zombies.
Yeah. Is the Kinks 65? Are the Kinks 1965?
They are. They started. They were on the come up. So they released this album. I think it's an album or probably an EP, but the Kinks 1965. But they're on the come up. Donovan Fairy Tale, who had a influence on. Oh, and the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, which
Okay.
also is going to be really important for Dylan as well. And there's one more that I want to talk. Frank Sinatra, September of My Years, which is a fantastic album.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, the King Controversy, 1965. So they released that as well.
Okay.
And the Beatles were on a roll. So on top of Rubber Soul, they also released Help
Oh, that's a great album.
and the Beach Boys' Summer Days, which has the song California Girls, and the Rolling Stones were on the up. So the British invasion. This is the peak, or one of the peaks of the British
Yeah.
invasion.
And you said the Zombies. I've always liked them. They were
I
very.
love the Zombies. They're probably my favorite of the British invasion, apart
Yeah.
from the Beatles. I like their
Oh,
vibe.
oh yeah, amazing. All right, so we'll get into Bob Dylan. So Bob Dylan, Robert Allen Zimmerman, grew up in Hibbings, Minnesota. Then he moved to New York. He was born in 1941. Went to the University of Minnesota in 1959. And that's where he became interested in folk music. And he met a lot of folk musicians in all the coffee houses. Dropped out of college and he moved to New York in 1961 and began playing at Gertie's Folk City venue where he met tons of musicians, tons of folk players. Um, Now, the folk scene was really exploding at the time in Greenwich Village. He met Dave Van Monk, Joan Baez,
Mhm.
Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I want to share a story about them. Um, Tom Dayton, Odetta James, John Sebastian, and what's his name? I always forget the guy's name. The most important, I have it written down, but I don't know the Woody Guthrie. Woody Guthrie,
Yeah.
the
Wait,
most
Chief, can
important.
wait, can I mention a few things? So
Yeah,
in my research, and again, thank you for like mentioning all that. And
yeah,
I think a few important things in terms of like the movie. The movie starts when Dylan arrives in New York in search of Woody Guthrie. And it's interesting because during the 1940s, right, there was and it actually peaked in popularity in the mid 1960s. And we're going to talk about this where Bob Dylan will perform at the Newport Folk Festival several times. But um, there was an American folk music revival. And you had performers like, I'm just going to, you already mentioned some of this, but
yeah.
Bill Ives, who ends up also releasing some of the best Christmas music, Woody Guthrie, just gonna mention some of the famous ones. Susan Reed. There's a bunch of them. Mia Rainey, Cisco Houston, and what it was. And the revival brought forward styles of American folk music that had in earlier times contributed to the development of country and western, blues, jazz, and rock and roll music. So Dylan arrives, I think, at the peak of this, and as you probably mentioned, he becomes the face, I think, of the folk revival
Oh,
movement.
definitely, he totally does.
Oh, and Pete Seeger as well.
Pete Seeger, yeah, I forgot about him. And they were all influenced by people like Allen Ginsberg, he's a beat poet, Ramblin' Jack Elliott, who Dylan took a lot from. I
Mm-hmm.
listened to him, you can kind of hear it. Eric Anderson, Phil Locke, um, and let me see, I think. Okay, and then their influences musically, Son House. Now, this is going back to the Delta Blues. So you can hear the Delta influence on them. Son House, Reverend Gary Davis, he taught Dylan how to play guitar. John Lee Hooker, Thelonious Monk, obviously Woody Guthrie for his folk style and activism. Um, Dylan signed to Columbia Records in 1962 by John Hammond. Now, John Hammond was important because if it wasn't for John Hammond, we would not know who Robert Johnson was. He put
Mm-hmm.
Robert Johnson on the map. He got his music out there. And Johnson was gonna perform in New York City, and then he mysteriously died. We got to do a show on Robert Johnson.
Mysterious, and yeah, he has a good story.
Yeah. Um. So then, his first album, Bob Dylan, came out. And I don't have a year. What year was that? 61.
Look my notes. Hold on. One sec. Keep going. I'll search my notes. Hold
All
on.
right. There's a song called "Fixin' to Die," which I used to cover.
So Cheech, that's 19. So released in 1962.
Okay, yeah. 1962.
Mm-hmm.
That I didn't realize it. Uh, uh, Buka White's "Fixin' to Die" is my favorite song on there. I actually did a cover with a metal version of that.
Wait, which one? Wait, which one, Cheech?
"Fixin' to Die."
Fixin' to Die, and that's a Buka White.
Yeah, Buka White, for
Wow.
those of you who don't know, is a Delta blues master who
Mm.
Clint was heavily inspired by. And then there's Highway 51 and Song to Woody, which is an album. Great song. I mean,
And pretty much the whole album is a whole album of covers. There's very few originals on this one.
that thing. I didn't.
Yeah, it's all covers pretty much. And one interesting song that I want to highlight again. I mean, the album's not my favorite. I don't know if you listen. It's good.
It's real folky. It's
very folky, and Bob Dylan's singing in this interesting voice.
Easily, right?
Yeah, it's very, especially in this early record. And I think one of the interesting songs. I'm just looking out here. Hold on. One of the interesting songs is "House of the Rising Sun," which is a traditional folk song, right? So it's
right.
The author of it, I'm not sure, but it was arranged by, you mentioned him, Dave Van Ronk, who was an important figure in the American folk music revival in New York City's Greenwich Village.
Right.
So, and he was nicknamed the mayor of McDougal Street. So he had definitely some pull here. And whatever happened when Dylan recorded Van Ronk's arrangement of the traditional song House of the Rising Sun, and then the Animals would hear this and kind of cover their own version.
They have more animals and more.
They immortalized it. They made it better. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then he did 2 albums in 63. Freewheeling.
Then the next one, you got to pause on this one. So this is legendary. Go ahead.
Freewheeling.
Bob Dylan.
You want to talk a little bit about it? I'll just name some songs. Bob Dylan blues. Don't Think Twice. It's All Right. Don't Think Twice. It's All Right. Oxford Town, and then a hard. Is it Hard Rain? A Hard Rain to Coming.
A hard rains are gonna fall.
Well, a hard rain is gonna fall. Classic protest song.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I will say this is actually one of, I always say for people, young people out there, listen to this album. This is probably one of the greatest leaps in artistry that anyone's ever witnessed. He went from this debut to the freewheeling Bob Dylan, and dude, mostly all originals. And he composes and writes some of his iconic songs like Masters of War, Blowing in the Wind, A Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall, Girl from the North Country, which I consider one of the greatest songs of all time.
That's a great song.
It's just, dude, the album cover is iconic. Like he's in his Dylan pose with his girlfriend at the time, Sarah Lowndes, I think. And in snowy New York street, it's iconic. And my favorite song on the album, you mentioned it, is "A Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall." And we could do a deep dive in this album in a future episode. But I'm not sure how much you like folk music. Like I'm okay on folk music.
I dig folk music, definitely.
So this album, dude, listen to listen from beginning to end is insane. And the highlight is "A Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall," which the song always brings tears to my eyes because if you listen to it, it's more than a protest song. And this is the beginning of Dylan actually, transcending the folk protest movement a little bit.
Right.
And it's actually a very sad song. And I have a few theories on it. And then my favorite song is "Girl from the North Country," which is one of the most romantic, mystic songs like one will ever hear. And obviously, "Blowing in the Wind" is an iconic protest song that became the anthem for the civil rights movement of the time.
Right.
So Dylan was at the forefront. But I just want to make sure that, for our listeners, he went from his debut, Bob Dylan, to this. Dude, it's astronomical. It's unheard of, his genius.
Amazing. And that this got him on the map, I would imagine.
This would do this. Yeah, this album was everywhere, man. It literally was top of the charts. Through this album, he became the face of the folk revival. I'm reading. I'm not sure we did it on purpose, but he became the face. But Bob Dylan will resent it though.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when it comes down to I have to move my stuff. I have a visitor. I have a visitor named Mr. Black.
Well, it's funny. Appropriate because on the album cover of Bring It All Back Home, there's a cat.
Is he
So you
leaving?
can strike your Dylan post.
I don't really write these episodes. Mr. Black writes them. This is a Twilight Zone thing.
He's the true writer. He's the true writer.
I just dictate. Okay. So the third album is Times Are a Changin',
Very dark, very dour.
1963, when the tip comes in. Now the Ballad of Hollis Brown, with God on Our Side, is a classic protest song.
Mm-hmm.
The Lonesome Death of Haiti Carroll was another powerful protest song in
Fantastic.
racial justice that was really, really bad at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That was going on, So, any thoughts on that album?
Yeah, so The Times Are a Changin' is an anthem once again. But it's funny with this song. Oh, and One Too Many Mornings, I love.
Okay.
Especially like live renditions of it. And just a little fun fact that I wrote down here. Apparently, the album and song, The Times Are Changing, was like Steve Jobs, the guy who created Apple and iTunes, like one of his favorites.
Wow. That's
just a little random.
Huh. You're always wondering what icons are listening to.
Yeah, seriously.
I would think Bezos is a big K-pop fan. It's my I throwing it.
Dude, I'm honest with you, man. My boy puts on K-pop, puts on his tutu, man. Like,
now he's probably like a fucking Rush fan for all we know,
Imagine if he was the biggest Rush fan. Like, oh man, I hate you, man. But no, I'm just kidding. No, I don't hate the Bezos.
I think he's more of a K-pop fan, but just a quick little side joke. Only kidding, Mr. Bezos. Not any problems. No comments, right? Fourth album, Another Side of Bob Dylan, 1964. The song I really love is Black Cow Blues. And that
I'll be honest with you, every song in this album is perfect, and I love that song.
Yeah, Spanish Harlem in it.
Harlem Incident, weird song, but fantastic.
My Back Page. And then this one I love, Chimes of Freedom.
I love that one. Especially, I think the Byrds covered it. Oh, I don't know if it was Springsteen. They did a really fantastic cover.
Wow. And that was a big protest song with the struggles of injustice. My Back Page, it was about, I guess, dogmatic thinking of the movement.
Yep.
So moving along, that album?
Yeah, Chief. So, a couple of things about this album. This is one of the first times where he's abandoning a little bit of, the full protest album and actually making personal songs. So among them, one of my favorites is I Don't Believe You. She Acts Like We Never Have Met. Right? Okay. You probably remember like the live version with the band.
Oh yeah.
So live, this song is
right in the Odeon. Is that the
yeah. But this is the acoustic version, and also It Ain't Me, Babe, which talks about his like relationship troubles at the time. Because we're gonna talk about it, but he has a fling with Joan Baez, who's the movie. Dude, it's crazy, and again, it's so sad that
Baez in it in the movie.
Well, no. So it's so okay. I will say we are music historian experts because remember how and again to our folks out there, we recorded this already, but due to so many technical difficulties, I don't know if it was some like demonic interference or crazy. That day was not working. I don't know what happened, but we were fixating on Joan Baez and Bob Dylan, and the movie actually captured that. Like we were right about everything.
Wow. That's
It's actually phenomenal. And I feel so bad for Sarah Lowndes, who's on the album cover of the Free Will and Bob Dylan. Um, but dude, I'll be honest with you, just looking at Joan Baez, she's so pretty. I don't blame him.
so talented. And not only that, she influenced Jimmy Page. Like, who would think like the wizard Jimmy Page would be listening to folky? I mean, this is real,
Yeah.
real folky, like flowers in your hair, kind of girly, almost folk, you know. And Jimmy Page,
It might be a reference to her.
yeah, it could be. You know, she wrote "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You." I think, Joan Baez.
Wow. No, and Joan Baez at the time was, again, talk about the American folk revival. She was one of the biggest stars before Dylan even arrived,
Yeah.
and Dylan gave her songs to
Yeah.
cover in some of her albums, right? But it's just crazy how people write about all of this. Like, we pretty much were talking about the movie before I saw the movie,
That's
and
funny.
I'm watching the movie. I'm like, dude, we talked about this. See, I don't even know it was like this
We,
detailed.
we should get a writing credit on that.
We should. They should. The movie should have consulted us.
Right. So we covered up to 1964, which brings us to Bring It All Back Home. Bringing It All Back.
Chief, before we talk about the album, before bringing it all back home, and again, we'll for our listeners, you'll see why this album is the turning point. What's your favorite like prehistoric Dylan album?
What out of the three that we mentioned?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, actually, which one did you listen to first?
The one with Black Cow Blues. Is that Bring It On?
Another side of Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Black Cow Blues was like the first Dylan song I ever heard. I mean, obviously I heard, Mr. Tambourine Man, the hits first. Then I dug back.
Well, that comes after, right? Because
Yeah.
with bringing it all back home.
Yeah. And then
Pottersfield BX, like, do they listen to Dylan? They must be Dylan fans in there.
Bobby's a poet, we're always talking about Rainbow and Deep Purple, so you don't really talk about Bob Dylan, but Bobby is a poet, so he definitely would. I know he would appreciate Bob Dylan, and Vinny and Robbie definitely would, and it's not a bad idea to cover a Bob Dylan song, which I think
I'll give you the colors that you have to do because they match the sound of your band.
Oh, that would be great.
Like,
that would be awesome.
And my record that I listened to and got first exposed was the Free Will and Bob Dylan. And once again, it's thanks to a civics teacher in high school who put on the song "Blowing in the Wind."
Yeah.
And I was like, what song is this? Like, I became strangely fixated on it.
Wow.
Like, "Blowing in the Wind," because I've never could think about it. 2010, I had heard nothing like it before.
No, it's unique. It's pretty amazing. Well, before we get into the album, I do have a little bit about Bob Dylan that maybe people that don't know about him. So Bob Dylan, themes of protest were his thing. Civil rights movement, segregation and violence, against Afro-Americans. He was very into that, helping Afro-Americans, African-Americans, I'm sorry.
There's a little inside joke. Apparently, some people take issue with Afro-Americans, which, I'll be honest, in the Hispanic community, I never heard that before, but whatever.
Well, I always knew the Afro-Cuban music.
Dude, that's what the Afro-Cuban music, yeah, like Santana had Afro-Cuban influences, but
certain people,
yes,
certain people at the temple problem with
according to some racist experts, I guess.
I don't know. All great stuff, no matter what.
Seriously.
Nuclear war, disarmament, the threat of it, social injustice, poverty, inequality, government accountability, the government policies and their...
Can I give an example of that? Masters of War.
Okay. Which album would that be on?
The Free Will and Bob Dylan.
Okay.
Which is a lot of protest songs in that one that we're talking about.
And the death of Katie Carroll with God on the Side. That was a good, that was a well-known protest.
And Cheech, I want to make sure that for our listeners out there, that they don't underestimate Dylan's influence on all those political and social and activism. Dude, he became the face of it. Like, it's mind-boggling. Even Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger. Now, Woody Guthrie at that time was already becoming sick,
Yeah.
He was bedridden, so he wasn't his old 1940s self. But what Woody Guthrie started in the 1930s with the workers and
Yeah.
the recovery from the Dust Bowl and all that, and also John Steinbeck, which he had his influence there. But Dylan pretty much eclipsed these songwriters and became the face of the social political activism.
Amazing.
And that's why I have a couple of things with Bob Dylan. He ends up he's like a real perp where he doesn't like when you fixate him on an image that you want on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Dylan, I'll be honest with you, Dylan's strange. He's one of those strange. He for some odd reason he was able to capture the zeitgeist of the time, and an underrated one is his critiques of the nuclear war stuff that was happening. That Rush on Grace Under Pressure will end up talking about, right?
Talked
That
about
paranoia.
And I know for a fact, my mom lived that era, 1962, 63. She was a little, a kid, middle schooler, and she was petrified. She would tell me stories that, Russia gonna drop bombs. Yeah, nothing's changed over there in Russia, but but it was really scary, in America, when you were a kid in the 60s,
No, for sure. And just
a lot of balls
Hmm?
to write things about that because the government.
No, that's what I'm saying. But what's really odd about this is that the public loved Dylan's folk stuff. Like he became massive. Pete Seeger was so impressed. He wanted him to become the face of folk music, acoustic, harmonica, continue the protest song movement. But Cheech, what happens?
He goes electric. Everybody who is in that scene turns on him and gets pissed. And I don't blame him. Imagine if Iron Maiden said the next album's going to be in a folk album. I'd be fucking pissed too.
Yeah, and imagine they tour it, and you're under the impression they're gonna play some of the heavy metal stuff, and they just play like some acoustic harmonica stuff.
Yeah,
Mood.
Bands have done that. Bands have going out and done acoustic stuff, but they would let Zeppelin, for instance, was always
There's a little secret in the
Zeppelin always had a cool acoustic set in their rock set, which I thought was cool. Like you'd have a rock set, then you'd have an acoustic set, then you go back to rocking again. So Zeppelin was definitely influenced by folk music.
Yeah,
a huge influence.
Oh, if I can mention another artist that did that, Bruce Springsteen. He had this iconic jump where he went from total rock to, in the 1980s, he released Nebraska, total acoustic album, total left field, and it was embraced by the fans. But at that point, Springsteen started out as a very Dylan-esque songwriter. Yeah. So his fans you're right. Led Zeppelin was already playing around with half acoustic songs and then half blues, hard rock, and we wouldn't talk about it with Mr. Joe Silkman, but Led Zeppelin 3 was sort of the epitome of that folk stuff that Page was playing. But with Dylan,
Grace is a great segue going into, because we're going into Zeppelin 3 with Joe, and it's
that's what I'm saying.
Friggin' folk album, pretty much, except
dude, it's a total folk album, and the Zeppelin fans already knew what to expect from them.
Yeah,
the reason why Dylan got so much hate is because, again,
pointed in Zeppelin 3. I think.
Say it again?
I think some Zeppelin fans might have been disappointed because, they're going from 1 and 2, which are heavy. Zeppelin 1's got some ballads, and 2, but it's all, Tangerine and, hats off to Roy Harper. It's more in that Dylan-esque kind of vibe, Joan Baez. So I could see where fans might be. I got to just mention this quick. I forgot about this. It's not really folk, but I did a project, and you can see it on YouTube. It's called the Morning Star Project. It's based in poetry. So it's just me and a poet, talented guy by the name of Bruce Merritt. You can look him up. He's on Amazon. He's got a bunch of books. And that was the hardest gig I ever had to do because there was no instruments. It was just bass and a guy doing poetry.
That's incredibly hard.
He's very influenced by.
Well, Cheech, talk about quickly, I love how you mentioned that, because to perform, because Dean's a poet, right?
Yeah.
To perform by yourself, very sparse instrumentation, is it easy, difficult? Sure.
It's very difficult. So my whole life up until this point was always bands, power trios. I wonder why. I won't say why I was in power trios, but
I would if I was in the band, I would be in a power trio.
most of my bands were all power trios. I had one or two heavy metal bands where it was 4-piece. Always either Sabbath kind of 4-piece with a singer.
Wait, would you say Pottersfield is a trio?
Well, yeah, because musically we're a trio, and then we have a singer. I don't like AC/DC two guitars. I love AC/DC, but I don't like playing with two guitar players. Big
Oh wow.
big pet peeve because they get in my way. I don't know how Steve Harris does it.
I was gonna say, how does Steve Harris? How does he do it?
Fuck you very much. Then stop playing.
Yo,
So
Steve Harris. I love Steve Harris.
so for me, I I always argued with rhythm guitar. Oh, dude, you're playing too many notes. And a keyboard player for me, with the exception of one, the great Jim Wacker, one of the greatest musicians I know. Because he plays. I lay back when he plays. But most keyboard players, when I played, they'd always be like, "Hey, you're playing too many notes. Stick to the groove." And it's not how I play. I play like Jack Bruce, Geddy Lee, Steve Harris. Fuck you very much. Then Geezer Butler. You know, so but the going up on stage after being in those situations by yourself. I remember the first gig we had, me and this guy Bruce Merritt. We
Mhm.
were a lot, and I had a lot of effects. I had a ton of effects, so I sounded like full band. I didn't sound like a bass player. I sounded like an I don't know, a UFO. My bass was like insane. So I was influenced by a band called Morphine. I don't know if you ever heard of them. You should check them out. They're a bass. They're a trio. I think they're saxophone, bass, and drums. And the bass player played with a fretless bass and a slide. So the guy's sound was nuts. So I was kind of thinking about them, and then the singer Bruce Merritt was Bob Dylan and William Butler Yeats in Coleridge. All this heavy, insane poetry. So the first time I did residual cough. Um, let me get some water. I was just thinking, I didn't cough in almost 15 minutes.
I know you're good.
Um, so I went up there and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I don't have a drummer. I don't have a guitar player to look at. Only me and Bruce had to cue each other. But we killed it, man. We destroyed every gig. And then when we were done, we would look at each other and be like, this felt like we have an orchestra behind us, not a band. And people loved it, but unfortunately, it didn't pan out like I wanted it to. You know, but definitely check out Bruce Merritt, amazing talent, talented poet. He's got about 4 books published. Uh, heavily
Amazing.
influenced by another Dylan Thomas. That was like his favorite. Coleridge and William
Oh,
Butler.
the great poets. Those are great names.
I learned so much from him. He was like you. If you guys had a conversation about,
Oh, it's over.
I learned probably everything from this dude about philosophy, poetry. Turned me on to Crowley. He worked at the temple for a short period. But the great thing about Bruce is he was like, "Fuck you very much. Gotta go." He didn't take anything from anybody. And of course, my friend, the late great Dave Torrey, was a part of our trio there. So back in the day, the "fuck you very much" days, and they still.
Maybe those days have to make a comeback.
I don't think they're
It's
allowed.
rough, man. It's rough, isn't it?
I think if you said "fuck you very much," you won't have a job.
I mean,
Unfortunately.
there's some we talked about them that did that attitude where they were just like, all right,
Well, most of the younger kids have that attitude.
if they do, it's kind of weird. It's a mix of entitlement, but at the same time, I don't blame them.
I
Why
I
should they take like? Why should if they're so talented, like your friend, what's his name, the poet Bruce?
Bruce Merritt.
If they're talented and they're taking a lot of heat from like horrible management, yeah, I'm not taking that from you.
Yeah, Bruce, I think, walked out, and this is like in the
Horrible priests.
this is the golden era of the temple. And he walked out, but I think me, I never had an attitude like even now. I always respect
Yeah,
You know, before
that's
we
really
got
old school. I have that, and I
yeah,
think, Cheech, our parents instilled this in us. If
yeah, they did because we have great parents. We watched them work hard. We got their
respectful authority, even if they're like toxic priests.
as I'm being, if somebody's being negative to me in my head, I'm thinking "fuck you" very much, but I'm not going to really say it. I just, I have too much.
Well, like a classic gentleman.
Yeah, it's not,
That's
it's
the
not.
thing.
Yeah, but who knows? I might say it in the future
It's
after
coming.
we talk.
Man, control yourself, man. You're a volcano. You're Mount Vesuvius ready to be roughed.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Yeah,
I'm
but I don't blame you. I don't blame you because that is very frustrating.
I studied too much Alan Watts and Lao Tzu to let
That's
that.
it, man. That's the secret.
You gotta jump on that side, not on the Aleister Crowley side. That's not, or the LaVey side. You got to stay away from. And believe me, I got them both. I got a right side and the left side with all those cats ruined.
You have both of those sides speaking to you. No, Cheech, don't
But
do it. Do it.
but in the middle is the main guy, Jesus Christ, the Prince of.
Yes, sir.
And he's the guy we should all, not to sound like an evangelist, but that's the person you got to be inspired by.
Amen.
Um, so, where are we?
So we just pretty much started. So April 1965,
Sorry.
bringing it all back home is released, and I will say this is dude, I love this album so much. For some odd reason, even before the movie came out, I was listening to it.
Oh,
I had no idea how, dude, all the songs are perfect, and
yeah.
you're gonna give a breakdown of each song, but
Yeah.
dude, for all the people out there, young listeners, listen. Should I mention his name? Um, Put down the Kendrick Lamar. Put on bring it all back home.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those albums that with each listen, and especially once after you watch the movie and after watching our podcast on it, you will realize that this is probably one of the greatest records of all time for so many reasons.
DJ Daquan, next DJ set, bring it all back home. Maggie.
Oh, yeah, DJ Daquan, can you please sample Maggie's Farm? You're gonna have you're gonna have all the girls up to you, man.
Go nuts. The 19 and 20-year-old girls go nuts for Bob Dylan right now. Yeah.
Come on, Daquan, just do it.
Just do it. But before we move forward, I just want to talk a little bit about Dylan's growth. Is that okay? Like
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about his folk stuff, early work, Blowing in the Wind, 1963, Times Are Changing, 1964. That helps define the 1960s folk revival. And he epitomed it, his political activism.
Oh, by the way, we've got to mention it, but great harmonica player.
Fantastic harmonica.
One of the best ones, and acoustic picker. We talked about it in the other recorded version, but we were talking about how you were saying that he has a strange way of picking guitar.
Yeah, he's a very unique style. I compared it to it's like crazy, but Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen picked up the guitar, never learned how to tap, never learned how to play guitar, invented tapping. My opinion about Bob Dylan is he picked up a guitar, didn't really know how to play, and that was his way of picking a guitar. It's Bob Dylan's style. If somebody shows you how to pick, you're learning their style. You're learning from your teacher till you develop your own style. But if you're that talented, like Eddie Van Halen, Bob Dylan, Robert Johnson, but even Robert Johnson, well, he learned from Mike Zimmerman, but that's a different story. But people might have, he might have watched, somebody like Skip James or Tommy Johnson or
Right.
Funhouse, But if you just pick up an instrument and learn how to play it on your own, that's freaking genius, and you're picking in your own style. So that's a unique thing. So I love his thing.
Cheech, who had that talent? Just as an aside, John Lennon.
Oh,
and
yeah.
his chord patterns become very iconic because he's a self-taught sort of. And again, he didn't learn; he just picked it up. He was just influenced by Elvis and
good guitar player.
Yep.
Underrated. Very. Underrated. He can. Him and Steve Winwood, underrated guitar players.
Yep.
From those uh, was it Dear Mr. Fantasy? I love that guitar solo.
Oh, that's a great song. And by the way, John Lennon will end up releasing the song called Working Class Hero of Plastic Ono, their album, their
Yeah.
debut. And it was very Dylan-esque. And this Lennon, strumming these like great guitar chords. And it was just talking like Lennon's also another self-taught genius.
Oh yeah, yeah. McCartney too. All the
Oh,
Beatles.
the Beatles, the Beatles are another level. Like,
How do you play
they don't even.
when you just pick up a bass? Geezer Butler too. Geezer was a guitar player, and then they said, "Well, here's a bass, play bass," and he, I mean, he just became Geezer. So like, some people are just gifted beyond belief. Dylan, Geezer Butler, Van Halen, John Lennon, they're all one of them, Um, and then in the mid '60s, the era we're going to be talking about, he goes to electric, and it's marked by albums Bring It All Back Home, Highway 61 Revisited, and my favorite, Blonde on Blonde with the great Mike.
Oh, by some of the best records of all time.
Mike Bloomfield. Check him out. What a great guitar player. If anything, please check out Mike Bloomfield. Then he explores country and Americana in the 1970s, Nashville Skyline in '69, 1976 Desire. Then he gets into gospel in the early '80s because he converted to Judaism. Slow Train.
Christianity.
Duh. That's what I meant.
He was a Jew, but he was a practicing Jew, but he discovered Christ during that.
Too much cough syrup. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, all good, man.
He would. And then just some hits that, maybe people may know, they may not know. They may be folk, they might not be folk. Like a Rolling Stone, everybody knows. That was my first Dylan song. The Man in Me, Tangled Up in Blue, Knocking on Heaven's Door, which, and here's something interesting. A lot of people covered Dylan. And
I was going to say, they surpassed it. So Jimi Hendrix did it with All Along the Watchtower, which coincided with his sort of... Dylan is strange because after Blonde on Blonde, he gets involved in a motorcycle accident.
That's
and
right.
Then he retreats. He leaves the public eye, the camera eye, make a reference.
Was that
what
year was that? Like 70, 71?
This was like 66, around that time. 67 is strange. And then he comes out with John Wesley Hardin, which is a very stark acoustic, sort of like back to his sort of like folky acoustic stuff. And on that, he had a song All Along the Watchtower that Hendrix came, again, because I guess Dylan didn't want to be electric anymore. I don't know what happened, but Hendrix came and he just melted your face off. And then Guns N' Roses will do the same thing with
Knocking
on Heaven's Door, which the original one is good, really good, but Guns just took it and made it epic.
Cool is that that like a heavy metal band could do a Dylan. So obviously Axl was into Dylan, which is like
Axl is a genius. I know he's crazy, but him and Slash are just insane what they did in that band.
They were
now Motley Crue. I mean, some were degenerates, but they had more artistic and musical genius.
The talent from Duff McKagan, what a great bass player.
I have a controversial opinion. I think Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and their debut is better than like Metallica's Black Album. I'm just gonna put it out there.
I think Guns N' Roses saved rock music. They're in that grunge era.
Yep. They did. They were actually, because they did not embrace grunge.
No, they were rockers, and there was no real good rock. I mean, there's a lot of great. There was no real good rock in the real rock in the public eye, except for Pantera. They blew up in '91, but Guns N' Roses and Pantera, Metallica did not do anything for rock music as far as I'm concerned on the Black Album. I mean, it was just like I bought it and was like, I like Struggle Within. Or I liked Wolf and Man, I think. But other than that, I'm like, I can do without this shit. I really could. And then I was done with Metallica. Like, for the forever, except for the first 4 albums. Sorry.
I know somebody will make a case for some of their later stuff, but I'll be honest with you, I don't
Actually,
know.
and I did talk to somebody about this.
Saint Anger.
I like Saint Anger. I do like it. I like the fact that the snare drum is so bad. I like that. I don't
You
know.
know, yeah, it's pretty bad.
And it's like and it's like crazy.
It's funny.
But so let me see. Okay, and then some interesting facts about Dylan. Nobel Peace Prize award he won in 2016. Was it?
Oh no, the Nobel Prize for Literature, one of the only artists to win.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
him being Dylan didn't go to the ceremony.
But thank you very much.
That's what he literally said.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm not a poet." I'm like,
He's not a poet.
you're an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand like if Maiden won, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and them saying "fuck you very much," not going because they're gonna win this year coming up, obviously, because they have to. But I could see something like that. But not, seeing you're not a poet, that's insanity, man.
I'm telling you, Dylan is like Pert, where Pert won't acknowledge his insane ability. Like they're so, it's not, they're humble, or maybe not. I don't know, but it's just that they're strange. They don't want to accept what the public thinks of them.
Yeah, their brain works on a different level than most. When you're that talented, it just does. It just.
Cheech, I don't know if this would be controversial. I had a very dear friend of mine. Her husband went to go see Dylan. I think she went too at the Capitol. She was saying
he opened the Capitol.
Oh yes, and he actually made several performances. Now I'm not sure which performance she went to, but I think one of her friends, not her husband, are huge Dylan fans.
Yeah.
So they went. He shows the signs that you'll enjoy this from a psychological perspective, and it makes me think of some signs of like autism, like they're not totally autistic, but they're on the spectrum.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it could be like how you said, their brains are operating at another level. I think Pert also.
And the introverted, like don't want to be around people, like very.
Yes, because you met people like that. Like there are people who are, totally, focused, fixated. They won't even. They're horribly socially and
socially. What do they call it? Social. Socially awkward.
Yeah, it's sort of they used to call it Asperger's back in the day.
Yeah.
New term. I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, it was just an interesting thing that you shared.
Yeah, definitely. He won a bunch of Grammys. He was nominated 11 times. He won 4. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, obviously, 1988. And this is a pretty big deal. Presidential Medal of Freedom, 2012. So he's won a lot of stuff. Very talented. So I'm quick. I wrote, Dylan's impact on music and culture extends beyond his own work, influence in countless artists. The Beatles, Springsteen, Neil Young, and his legacy is timeless. I think that sums up Bob Dylan pretty much.
I think wonderfully said. Yeah, his influence goes beyond what he did, and one of the things just before we move on, his people are split on his singing style. What do you think of his singing style? That is the one, like, most people, I'll be honest with you, they're very big Dylan fans, like myself. I love Dylan. Like from the first time I heard him, I never had a problem with his voice. But most people cannot listen to him because of his voice. What do you think about that?
People have a problem because they want to hear a great singer. But you wouldn't put him up in a Robert Plant category, but like Rush had the same problem.
And that, no. Actually, Bob, again, not to bring, I know probably Joe might get pissed off. Rush, that's a lot of, like, when I tell people, do you like Rush or not? They listen to it, but then they say, man, I don't like that lead singer. Like, I don't like the way he sings.
Yeah. And the critics saying Geddy sounds like a cat going through a blender. That's like, so it's like,
Especially on his earlier stuff. Do his earlier stuff? You sound like a cat, like getting like neutered or
Oh,
something.
God. That's the greatest. I mean, it's the worst critic, but it's hysterical. Dylan, I think people can't handle it because he's such a genius. You know,
That's what I think too.
you know, he doesn't have to have a great voice. I think he has a great voice, but he doesn't have to
Me
sound
too.
uh, a Robert Plant or a Steve Marriott or you know, Greg Allman. He could be Bob Dylan because he's Bob Dylan. And who sounds like that? Bob Dylan. Nobody.
And that's what I want to kind of like again. Yeah, you mentioned it. Like you have, and we're gonna actually, no pun intended. We're gonna bring it all. We're gonna bring it back home pretty soon. But with his singing, I don't think folks realize it's like Getty. Like, dude, no one sounds like Bob Dylan at the time.
Well,
Nobody.
one person sounds like Getty. The guy in Supertramp.
Oh, okay. Can I share something about that? That's so funny how you mentioned that because he sounds like how Getty will sound if he was more melodic.
Yeah.
Like
There's
what I mean? Like,
there's a tonal quality.
yeah, no, you're right. Especially in the song, like
Going,
when I was young, my life is so what, but it sounds melodic. It doesn't, Getty goes full on like Getty.
it's a nasally. They sing from the nose.
Dude, that's funny how you mentioned that. Yeah, you're right.
You know.
You're right.
But nobody sounds like Getty. Nobody sounds like Dylan. I mean, those are unique singers, and there's only even Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. Nobody.
He's another one, very unique.
That nobody sounds like that. The way he phrases, he even phrases like.
I'll be honest with you. Another one that I think Phil Lynott was influenced by was Hendrix. I remember he had this interesting singing style, and
yeah,
and he's not the best singer. I was trying to tell this to somebody, but he has this voice that is so Hendrix that, dude, no one can replicate it. I mean, of course you can with proper if you're like really like Mr. Page, that Japanese guy.
Yeah. I'm sure in Ireland, a million Thin Lizzy tributes that are nailing it. And there's
right.
Does the Phil Lynott thing, but Phil Lynott was a combination of Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix, I think.
I agree. I agree.
Storyteller, great storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like Hendrix with his moves on stage. He looked fucking dude, and the way he sang, he had that like swag, like Jimmy had a swag, when he sang.
Yeah, he had that swagger and style, which was very unique.
So definitely. So there are the unique singers, and if you say you don't like them, you obviously aren't listening.
You're not.
That's the problem.
You're not. And again, the reason why I share this is because most young people are going to listen to Bob Dylan and they're going to be turned off by the voice because they're used to so much auto-tune, so much fakeness in today's artists and mumbling, without mentioning the genre, that when they listen to true talent, like you, and that's why I'm going to try to, the point I want to come across is Dylan, what he was doing in 1965 was insanely original. There was nothing like it.
No. And that's the problem with today. And I know somebody will disagree with this. There's nothing original anymore. Like,
and just one more before I forget. And when you imitate it like Veta Grand Fleet, it's just horrible. It's not the same. And listen to Veta Grand Fleet is a Led Zeppelin kind of like, influenced band. And the lead singer tries to sing like,
that's what they tried to do, like Kingdom Come back in my era. Did that? It sounded too much like Zeppelin. Whitesnake could get critiques for that a little bit, but Whitesnake had its own thing. Period. Dave Coverdale's Dave Coverdale, but like when you want to sound like we want to copy somebody, no copying. It's been done already. So that's a whole different.
No, and then it becomes bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, then it's like, and what is his name? Bob Dylan's son was good. I don't know. I just thought of that.
He was okay for what he was. I mean, in his band, I think they had like a what's that? The Wallites? What
Wallflowers, Wallbangers,
something like that. But even then, he did not have his father's talent, though.
The album Crackview Mirror, I think, was the.
It's sort of like Julian Lennon too, and
he
like don't get
his dad, and he had like a cool thing. But the problem is it was the 80s. It was 80s technology. Bob Dylan's
Yeah.
son was 90s. And I give those guys credit for even going near a microphone. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the only one that gets away with it and gets a pass because is Jason Bonham. That guy can play his ass off like his father. He gets the pass because he did everything perfect, and he's paying homage to his father.
Oh no, that's a lot of respectability.
Actually, Ringo's son is a very good drummer.
He is, yeah.
That Starkey, holy shit, he played with the
I
Hook.
think I was gonna say he played with the Who.
That guy could,
That's cool. No, no, I just want to come across like I'm not trying to say yeah. I guess if you want to like imitate your favorite singer, I'm not saying don't not do that.
Yeah.
Like all my point is that with Dylan, a few people will not give him a chance because of his voice. Same thing with Getty too. I'm like that's such a shame because you're gonna be missing out on probably some of the greatest music that you'll ever listen to.
People aren't listening. They're just like they're listening to the song, and the singer has to be in that realm of a singer. They got to fit that box.
They have that, and I think it's worse now with the auto tune, the mumbling. If you listen to today's music, a lot of people will say that Taylor Swift is a great singer. I'm not saying that she's not. I'm not saying if she is, but I'll be honest with you. If you compare her with Joan Baez or Joni Mitchell, I don't know, man. I don't know. Or Carole King, the phenomenal, legendary Carole King. Like
you can't even put her in the same category as Carole King.
I don't know, man.
But I wouldn't put Taylor Swift in the same category as Zena LeVay. Oh wait, maybe she is. I don't know. No, I respect Taylor Swift. I'm not.
Yeah.
The only thing, I don't get it. I get Lady Gaga. I loved Lady Gaga. I thought she was exceptionally talented. I obviously got Madonna. The Taylor Swift thing, I think she's pretty hot. But other than that, I don't really, I don't know. I'm not getting it. Brittany Fox, no, what's it? Britney Spears. I take her over Taylor Swift.
I know. And again, Britney Spears has no talent either, in my opinion. Like she's okay for what it was, like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, but
on the talent level, I mean, this is just an opinion. People, Swifties, don't hate us, but I don't think there's any Swifties that are listening to this podcast.
I don't think so. I told like because I deal with a lot of young people, right? And I told them, Taylor Swift, I don't know. She's okay. But I'm not. I want to tell them, but I don't want to be cynical. Will you listen to Taylor Swift when you're 60? Like, dude, no. I'm gonna be 32. I listen to Bringing It All Back Home. Like, why? Like, why do I listen to this album multiple times? Or Rush's
older than me, and I'm old.
No, I'm telling you, you would think like, and I listen to all types of music. It's Cheech. I listen to Kendrick Lamar. I listen, all to stuff. I'm not saying,
dude,
keep making music.
Really, Robert Johnson's music is almost 100 years old.
No, that's what I'm saying. But and the thing is,
fine, and the record.
No, that's what makes something special. Like with Taylor Swift, that's why her music will not stand. I will not be listening to Taylor Swift when I'm 70. But when I'm 70, I'll still be listening to Bringing It All Back Home.
I honestly don't think Taylor Swift, in my opinion, and people might say you're crazy, will be remembered when you're 70.
It's more like it's party music, man. Like
it's layers and layers of other garbage on top of that you got to dig through. Oh, remember Taylor Swift? Lady Gaga's not even that popular anymore.
No, Lady Gaga, you know what she's doing right now? She's going into acting, and I think she's smart for that because, she's very popular actually. She made a song with Bruno Mars. It's kind of good.
Well, they're both really from that era, right? When they came up together.
I would say so, yeah, because Lady Gaga, yeah.
Bruno Mars, like phenomenal. I mean,
he's one of the few ones that have talent, in my opinion, singing style and
out there that can be like a Prince or like a. I think he looks like Phil Lynott when he started. That was like my joke.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, guy should do a Thin Lizzy song,
Imagine,
but she won't be remembered. Taylor Swift. I'm sorry. 100 years.
And I'll be honest with you, I hate this. There's another one, Sabrina Carpenter. I don't know if you heard of her. She has one song that's okay, but the thing is, like, because a lot of people probably will not give Bob Dylan a chance because of his voice.
Yeah.
And you're right. Listen to the lyrics. Like, you have to learn how to listen to music because, um, yes, music is music, but then you got to listen to the poetry
You know
because
what?
then it
A guy, Twyman cut you off. You finish what you're gonna say. I'm sorry.
No, just listen to the poetry because music and poetry is probably one of the best things because lyrics are poetry. I know they're gonna say lyrics are not poetry, but I disagree with that. And Bob Dylan is probably like we're gonna we're gonna bring it back home pretty soon.
Oh
But
yeah. Up. Yep.
because we went on this tangent. But when you listen in the lyrics to songs like Maggie's Farm and and Bob Dylan's 115 G and Subterranean Homesick Blues. Man, this dude,
He's preach.
and the fact that I love how you said that the folk, which he was obviously influenced by, took its influence further back from the Delta Blues. A lot of these sound like Delta Blues classics.
Dude, you go back and you listen to Sun House, Death Letter Blues. That will give you chills. Listen to Death Letter Blues with Sun House is playing acoustic. It'll make you cry. It'll give you chills. You listen to Buka White, obviously our boy Robert Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, it's just them and a guitar, and it's folk. That's folk. It's considered folk blues. That's what it is. Skip James is another guy from that era. Those would be the big four: Buka, Skip James, Sunhouse, and Robert Johnson. You could throw in Johnny Shines, Robert Lockwood Jr. All those guys were more disciples of Johnson. But really, really, that's where Dylan was coming from, especially with like the harmonica playing.
No, and that's why I'm so surprised when people were shocked with his album "Bring It All Back Home" because this is where everything was leading to.
It was. He just was like.
That's why I love how we're having a discussion because we're bringing, we're literally, no pun intended again, we're bringing it all back home, and I think that's why he titled that album "Bring It All Back Home," and it's no coincidence that we'll talk about the album cover. He has some records on there that kind of give clues.
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's get off the Zena LaVey kick. I mean, what's her name? Taylor Swift kick. Because I love that.
I wonder if our coworkers at the Temple are Swiftie fans.
Oh, I'm sure. I know a few. I know one particular that probably is making YouTube videos, dancing around to it. And
I think what's sad. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think he makes. I think he does what we do, but with T Swift videos.
Yeah. So Bring It On Home. Columbia Records, 1965, Dylan's fifth album. Transitioned from his early sound incorporating electric music, electric instruments, and it caused a controversy, as we talked about, and divided many in the folk world.
Mm-hmm.
It's folk rock blues on Columbia Records, produced by Tom Wilson. Singles: Subterranean Homesick Blues, She Belongs to Me, Maggie's Farm, Gates of Eden. So those were the singles. And first half of the album is electric because you have four songs on each. I think there's 8 songs on the album. So
there are. I'll tell you right now. There are 11 total.
11.
And then side one, you're right. 7 electric tunes and an acoustic, 4 acoustics.
Yeah. Yep. And I think Gates of Eden starts it off, right?
Mr. Tambourine Man.
Oh, Mr. Tambourine Man. Okay.
Yeah.
So where was I? He's backed by an electric band. Side 2 is mainly acoustic. And he abandoned. I don't know. We talked about this. His protest music.
He did. Wait.
But really, does he? Because some of these.
No. Here's the thing. Cheech. Like he abandons. I got this in my notes. I don't know if I'll say about this, and you can keep going. But So what it is that this album abandons the protest music of Dylan's previous records. So his previous records were all obviously protest songs. Like you can argue some of them not so much, but for the most part, they're following the tradition of the folk revival, protest. A lot of these were really political. But dude, so he goes into a more surreal, dreamlike, absurd, complex. This is a style that's parodied. Like
Yeah.
It gets really surreal. And again, talk about, how I just mentioned that going from his debut to the Free Willing was an astronomical leap. This is another one where he goes from singing a song like Blowing in the Wind to Subterranean Homesick Blues, where he's pretty much like, rapping and giving you, that song in 2 minutes. He gives you a whole kind of like stream of consciousness style.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he invented this or he got it from the poets. I think he obviously got it from the poets, but
there's a lot of stream consciousness in the lyrics and a lot of absurdism. That's when I analyzed it, because I had some trouble analyzing it, as you know.
It's difficult.
It's not nail pierced,
No. It's not philosophy. It's not philosophical. It's not intellectual either. It's unique.
Yeah, not that Rush is easy to analyze, but Dylan is the most difficult. Good luck analyzing. And even if you analyze it, you're probably wrong, because it's probably about something else.
Yeah,
that's it.
And it's funny. No, there have been instances where people think they figured out a certain Dylan lyric, and Dylan himself will say, "No, that's not it at all." Like, so he's interesting the way he starts writing. And again, I'm not sure if that was influenced. I don't know where this came from, but I'll be honest with you, it makes sense because Dylan he's an artist that was so unique, and I think if we were interviewing him, he was going in this direction because he had a lot to say. He had this mind that was insane, that was on another level.
Yeah, like his lyrics are like, I mean, they're all over the place. You don't know. It might be saying one thing, and then he's talking about something else. That's so you don't what the true meaning is. So, and then to me, there is some types of protest, like Maggie's Farm might be.
Maggie's Farm is sneaky though, because I argue it's not a protest. It sounds like a protest song, but it's not. It's actually a jab at Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger.
Right. So it's a metaphor, like
he's like pretty much it's his "F You Very Much" song where he's venting his frustrations. But this is what's so cool about him, and this is the best poetry and fiction and literary works when they are so dynamic that they can be about so many things.
Right. It went to number 6 on the Billboard charts, and let me think. He stopped playing and dating or banging Joan Baez at this point. So they didn't hook up again until 1975. So she was angry, very angry at him. And he was like, "Fuck you very much," because I'm Bob Dylan. He started playing with a rock band, and it pissed off his peers, everybody in the folk world. Like, "Fuck you very much, Bob Dylan."
Pretty much, and also mainstream America, because he was pretty much, I don't want to be the face of, any political movement anymore. I want to be Bob.
That's what it probably.
I want to be Dylan.
I don't want to be the activist guy. I'm sick of that shit. I want to be a musician.
Yeah.
I want to write.
No,
yeah.
And it's funny how you mentioned Joan Baez, because, again, I respect Joan Baez.
Oh, yeah.
Total influential singer-songwriter and musician.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you, she kind of fizzles out.
Yeah. She was at Woodstock, right? So she
was at Woodstock, but in the 70s, she had a few things here and there.
She didn't make it too far, and she didn't become like a Harley Simon or like
no, or Carole King or even like Joni Mitchell.
Yeah. Joni Mitchell.
Which I think she probably eclipses Baez, because Mitchell at this point in 1965 started to release records.
Yeah, and Joni Mitchell wasn't not a folk singer. She was like just a great songwriter. She was a singer songwriter, but she was folk.
She started. She was influenced by the California folk scene for a little bit. But
Yeah,
then
yeah,
she ends up taking off on her own style.
yeah. There's a great album she did with Jocko, and Pat Metheny. Oh my God, what a great because she gets into jazz, she gets into
Yeah.
everything. Um,
She's kind of like Dylan, kind of like her own kind of Dylan.
yeah, Johnny.
And it's no coincidence that she gets invited to the band's Last Waltz
Oh
with
yeah.
Dylan and Young. So not a
You know
coincidence.
what's crazy about the Last Waltz? I always remember Eric Clapton is playing further on up.
And his guitar loose snaps, his
That's
guitar
happened to me.
vocal,
You
it's
know,
so awkward.
happened to me.
Dude, but the way he just quickly just bounces back, I'm like, dude, if that was me.
Genius.
If
I
that was me, I would like freak out.
going, oh, I know that feeling. It sucks. You're so embarrassed, but he pulled it off. You just made me just a quick side note. So his peers are pissed. Charts at 36, which ain't bad on the charts. Important the players who will make him electric need to be mentioned. Steve Boone on bass, Al Gorgonson on drums, Bobby Gregg on drums, Paul Griffin on keys and piano, John Hammond Jr. on guitar. Now, John Hammond became a great folk guitar blues, like a blues, Delta blues guitar player, and just a great guitar player. And his father was the main John Hammond who covered Robert Johnson. For those of you who don't know who John Hammond Jr. is, check him out. He's a beast on the guitar, like Mike Bloomfield. Bruce Langhorne on guitar, Billy Leo on bass, on It's All Over Now, Frank Owens on keys. This is interesting. John Sebastian on bass. So John Sebastian didn't really turn his back on him. But John Sebastian wasn't really, he was electric folk. If you think about it, Love and Spoonful wasn't pure folk, you know?
Well, John Sebastian, I'll be honest with you though. Yeah, you're right. It would make sense because he was already open to electric music.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm reading here, he grew up with musicians and singers as Burl Ives and Woody Guthrie. He heard players as Lead Belly, but he had an interest in blues music, so I'm not shocked.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked at all. Like he wouldn't turn his back. If anything, he would probably like idolize Dylan, what he was doing.
Oh, yeah. U.S. went platinum, UK went gold. Okay, so let's dig right into this. All right. Subterranean Homesick Blues.
Yo, and the album, dude, this album opener is so legendary.
Now, why is this song so famous to everybody who knows Bob Dylan?
I think it has something to do with a little video he made of it, making him one of the first music video artists.
I think he's forget the
he might be the first.
Forget the video killed the radio star. Bob Dylan killed the radio star. Bob Dylan first video.
No, and I remember growing up on MTV, that video was everywhere.
Played it all the time.
Yeah.
They knew the significance of it back then.
Yeah.
And MTV was very important at that time, and it had the flashcards. So he's like having these flashcards as he's singing really fast, and you see.
Very, very funny.
So now bear with me on my analyzation because it's not Neil and it's not Steve. So, his lyrics, I would say surrealism are in there.
Very surreal.
There's some humor in there. It's a critique. He critiques critics. He's like a critic on a lot of things on this song.
Yep.
He's kind of like a critic. Did that make sense? Did you? I don't know if you froze up or I froze up.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no. So it's Dylan's critiques and offering like golden nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah. Okay. So you're freezing up just a little bit.
I agree. It's his critiques.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What about
Maggie? You're good. Maggie's mentioned. Social norms, the government control, and the search for meaning. We mentioned the first ever video with lyrics on cue cards. Music is folk blues, jangling guitar, upbeat, catchy melody and feel. So did I miss anything? Did I get that one right?
No, I think you did. I think this song is I think we talked about it, but can be considered the first rap song too,
I think so, and I think Devontae
because
should.
the way he's kind of like, you should sample him.
Yeah, man. Subterranean homesick blues, man. The chicks, you want to get the chicks on the dance floor.
Oh man, dude, that song's a lady killer.
It really is.
And just to highlight some, I'm just pulling up my notes here. Just to highlight some like the lyrics. First of all, like the title is so cool, Subterranean Homesick Blues,
Yeah.
which is I think uh like that title, I think it has something to do with the Beat Poets, but I'm kind of forgetting why. Um, but just yeah, he's critiquing so much things and offering so much wisdom. He says your Maggie comes fleet foot, face full of black suit, like talking about, and the way he's singing too, it's just so rock and roll.
Oh,
And I love some of the lines here. He says, "You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows." Like, you
yeah.
know, he's saying, "Wake up, people!" Like, you don't need someone telling you where. This song could be about so many things, but it's surreal, it's absurd, and one of my other favorite lines is look at this. And again, I love it, but when you hear him sing this, he's like singing 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
He says, "I'll get born, keep warm, short pants, romance, learn to dance, get dressed, get blessed." Like it's great. He's like playing around with language.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite lines here is 20 years of schooling and they put you on the day shift. Like, that always reminds me this could be a temple anthem.
Yeah. Is that like a word scheme, would you say?
I would say so, yeah. Like
Yeah.
he's playing. So this song is interesting. It's kind of like meaningless in a way because he's mostly playing around with language.
Yeah.
And he's telling the audience, this is not blowing in the wind. Now I'm getting surreal on you.
Yeah. Definitely. I would say it's one of my favorite songs on the album, and then we should pick our favorite song at the end. It's one of
Yeah.
my. It's in my. I'd have to say, kind of my top.
And we'll do that after. And by
Yeah.
the way, it's also heavily inspired by Chuck Berry's Too Much Monkey Business. So
Yeah.
this is a direct Chuck Berry influence.
Right. And Chuck Berry was huge at that time.
Really huge. He influenced a lot of the rock music scene.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the next one, which I might be way off with, because I mean, and She Belongs to Me. Now I'm gonna just say this before I before I don't want to embarrass myself, because I don't know if I got the traditional folk melody, Irish folk phrasing, definitely. Surreal imagery, vivid, dreamlike atmosphere. Now, it's not about a woman. It's about a woman, or is it not about a woman?
It could be both ways. This song is very sneaky.
Is it leaving a woman because he's like talking about like the fireplace or something in it? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it could be. Now just think about like just from the title of the song, "She Belongs to Me," right? So it sounds like a very possessive song,
yeah, yeah,
right? But if you look at the lyrics a little bit, again, he's becoming more kind of biting in that this is not. This is my opinion, but she's got everything she needs. She's an artist. She don't look back. She's got everything she needs. She's an artist. She don't look back, right? So she can take the dark out the nighttime and paint the daytime black. Now look at this lyric. She can take the dark out of the nighttime and paint the daytime black.
yeah.
What does that sound like to you? It sounds strange. I don't think that's
I mean, it's a powerful woman.
and there's been theories that this is sort of like he's trying to symbolize creativity or the muses.
The muse is a woman.
Mm-hmm.
About the muse. I think he's singing about the muse. Great finger picking.
Yep.
Great harmonica solo, mid-tempo drums, and I love how he references Halloween and Christmas.
It's yeah, it's fantastic.
So that kind of adds to our Christmas theme.
Yeah, she says here for Halloween, buy her a trumpet, and for Christmas, get her a drum.
Yeah,
Which is kind of cool, right? And one of my favorite lines in the song is she wears an Egyptian ring. It sparkles before she speaks.
yeah, that
Great image, right? Like he's starting
image,
to get really good
his
with his
imagery,
poetry.
outstanding imagery. Um,
He paints good pictures with his
pro- pro-
lyrics.
Probably the best, the best.
Oh, and this song is very actually. It's such a shock hearing it. He goes from Subterranean Homesick Blues, which sort of is like a slap in the face, to then to this nice,
Right.
sweet and folky number.
Yeah, yeah.
She belongs to me,
And then he goes
and
to,
then and slaps you in the face again with Maggie's Farm.
yeah, so Maggie's Farm is, I'm gonna say it now, it's probably my favorite song
I
on
love this song so much.
it's my favorite song on the album. I'm just gonna throw it out there. You know, um, now commentary on social cultural expectations, uh, placed on the individual, fed up with constraints of society, represents, Maggie's Farm, rejects conformity and social norms and expectations, seeking freedom, rejecting the folk scene, and not fitting in the mold. I think he's singing, basically saying "fuck you very much" to folk scene.
I'll be honest with you. I think this is an indictment of the folk scene and anybody that was trying to make him sing what they wanted him to sing. And this song can go both ways. It can be very political because I think I mentioned this to you that this is sort of like a temple anthem.
Yeah,
So every time I go in the temple, I think of this song like, oh, I don't want to work on Maggie's farm no more. But if
I have, I'll say it. Well, let me just. Well, you will finish your point, and then I'll get to my.
No, I just want to say, like, with he says here, I ain't gonna work for Maggie's mom no more. No, I ain't gonna work for Maggie's mom no more. Well, she talks to all the servants about man and God and law. Everybody says she's the brains behind Paul. So she's probably taking a jab at some of the folk singers like Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie. She's 68, but she says she's 24. I ain't gonna work for Maggie's mom no more. Like, it's just a straight up F you. Like, the song is an F you, and if you look at the way he performs in the Newport Folk Festival, that video I send you, dude, it's total punk and metal. He's saying F you.
It's anger, man. He's just like out.
Anger.
Like going fucking ballistic. Incredible. That's one of the best performances, I think, of any song ever.
Yep.
Maggie's Farm could represent social order with expectations and rules, being a part of a system, playing by its rules. Losing your individualism and autonomy, being a part of the machine, feeling trapped like a prisoner, with no escape or freedom. That could be also a part of it, as well as I really think it's not though. I don't think it's against a machine or anything. I think it's like a fuck you to the folk scene.
Yeah, the more I listen to it, the more I listen to the song, like I could see those points. Like, yeah, like it could be about like again, think about all those back in those days, those workers that had to work on a farm, like dealing with horrible bosses, and even going back further with slavery.
Oh God,
black slaves working for those taskmasters that were horrible. It could be about that, but the more you listen to the song and the context that it was released, and it's not a coincidence that he performed this song at the Newport Folk Festival. It's a F you to the folk scene, Matt. And again, he has an interesting line. I already said this. Well, she talks to all the servants about man and God and the law, right? So this was sort of like the protest civic, political activism that was going on at the time. He's saying, I don't want to work on this farm anymore.
It's almost like the Sex Pistols at Winterland, their last performance, but they were just like, fuck you.
No, seriously. And this is the major clue. Look, he says here, well, I try my best to be just like I am, but everybody wants you to be just like them. They sing while you slave, and I just get bored. Let me reread that line. They sing while you slave, and I just get bored. And then he says, I ain't gonna work on Maggie's farm no more. So he was getting bored with the folk scene. He was like, this is boring. This is what I want to do, and I'm getting out of Maggie's farm, which is Pete Seeger's farm or the folk farm.
Exactly. Musically, it kicks ass. Electric folk, driving rhythm, distorted guitars, repetitive melody focuses on the groove, build intensity. It has a lot more instruments in it. Live at Newport, was it the Newport Folk Festival?
Folk Festival, yeah.
Best version of this ever. I think he did it in London too with the Hawks, I believe, right?
No, not that I know of. At London, he performed. No, in London, he performed Like a Rolling Stone, which he got booed because that was another case. So pretty much, this is the first. So okay, think about it. This is the first time people are hearing Electric Dylan.
Wow.
And he's getting hated, but he's taking a punk metal attitude. He's like, I don't care. And shortly after, he goes to Hammersmith Odeon and performed. This is after he releases Highway 61 Revisit.
Right.
And that album was major for him, but still was not accepted. And he ends up performing a few electrical tracks. And then when he reaches Like a Rolling Stone, they're yelling, Judas! And he goes like, you're a liar. And he's just like, doing his thing. And then he looks at the band and he says, play it fucking loud. And then he says, he just, if anyone listens to that live take, and especially Maggie's Farm too, and people have to think about it. He's coming off the folk scene. People are like, man, this is a Joseph generation. And then he gets up on the mic. I ain't gonna. He's just, and you hear Mike Bloomfield's guitar, note and licks.
His guitar work is insane on this. I mean,
it's insane,
mind blowing. I'd put him up there with anybody. Mike Bloomfield. He is I can't stop talking about Bill, bro. I could go on and on about him. Check out Mike Bloomfield, please. So this is my favorite line. I'm not going to say any names, but we can use our imagination here. He hands you a nickel, hands you a dime, asks you with a grin, are you having a good time? Love that line. It's like,
Temple Live, minimum wage, without going into much details.
Here's your dime, put your smile on. Hope you're having a good time. But don't have a good time because I don't want to see Cheech and Manny writing episodes. Anyway, we'll just stop there. New Year's resolution, Christ consciousness, I said to myself.
Yes, sir.
I'm not want to go there. So hard to fight Anton LaVey in your head. I don't know. Jesus, Anton LaVey. Jesus, Anton.
You got two sides and Christ in the middle. No, Cheech. Stay on the Christ path.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheech, wait. Just introduce the next song. I just gotta get something from next door.
Yeah. Love.
Just keep talking.
Love -0, no limit.
Just introduce and talk about it.
So, I think Mr. Black wants to pop in here. Hey, my muse. No, he doesn't. You will meet Mr. Black. One of the pops in here. Love -0, no limits. So, I think this is one of my favorite songs. Breaking free from the constraints, no boundaries or restrictions. What else do I have in here? Rejecting the status quo. So it's like rejecting from the norm, a referral. I can't even speak. Not to accept what's going on in reality, so norms, expectations, limitations, anything can be achieved. So I may have to say that again. Manny stepped out for a second. This is a long episode, so but But this Manny's away from the camera. I'm just gonna say, check this album out. Bring it up. Bring it all back home. 1965. It is a great album, and it'll really get you into,
Okay, I'm back.
I was just talking to the camera, just
Yeah, no, no, yeah, just do it.
mumbling. Love minus zero, no limits. Okay.
Oh, I love this song. This is like one of my favorite. It's so it's crazy because the Birds were. I don't know who did it first, either the Birds or Dylan with the folk rock sound. Both the songs. Oh, and I love. Have you seen the concert for Bangladesh, Cheech?
Yes. They got two bass players.
They did, and two drummers too, which is crazy. But um, George Harrison invites Bob Dylan, and he performs Love Minus Zero, No Limit, and such a beautiful song. As long as she belongs to me. Like, these are weird songs. Like,
Yeah.
listen to love songs in a Dylan-esque way.
Yeah. I think this one, I got wrong the last time. I don't know if it's a love song. I mean, is it a love song? Before I embarrass myself.
So it is technically a love song, yes, but it's there's lots of sneaky lyrics in there that kind of make it seem
Absurdities come in. The absurdism.
Yeah, it gets really surreal and absurd with
Yeah. I mean, breaking free from the constraints, no boundaries, but is that in there?
See, oh yeah, I was confused about that, dude, because I think you got that. Maybe that was for another song.
I thought I heard it in this song, but I don't.
No, this one is more.
Yeah.
It's more him singing lovely poetry to somebody, but
About
and I
this.
think what you did get right is that might be about Joan Baez, which I might agree.
Yeah.
Or Sarah Allowance, but it sounds like more Baez.
I think it's about, Joan Baez. Anything can be achieved. Does that make any sense in this song?
With the lover, maybe.
Yeah. Rejection.
Rejection. The part which is my love. She's like some raven at my window with a broken wing, which is a nod to Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah. Maybe he rejected her and she's coming back as a raven. Maybe she's a witch.
Maybe broken wing, right? Maybe it's an insult.
Yeah, yeah. I did have that in my notes, and I was way off on
Yeah. No, but it's a good love song. I feel that this is the one that, and DJ over here, without mentioning his name, man, sample this song. You want the chicks up at your door?
Oh yeah.
Sample this song, man.
So it's definitely a love song,
Yeah.
which I didn't really I gotta really analyze it again.
It's beautiful. Look, like he says, my love. I read somewhere that there's a William Blake influence, which I kind of see as well.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's just really interesting lines like the cloak and dagger dangles, madames light the candles. In ceremonies of the horsemen, even the pawn must hold a grudge. Statues made of matchsticks, and this is the absurd verses, crumble into one another. And then she says, my love winks, she does not bother. She knows too much to argue or to judge. Like it's just Dylan, talking about some sort of muse or lover or love. I don't know.
Yeah.
Great song though.
I could see the William Blake in there, definitely.
Yeah, the poetry. Yep.
Yeah. Love the harmonica on it. The finger picking is amazing.
It's amazing, dude. The whole production of the song is beautiful. That's why it sounds like a bird song.
Yeah, that's where the finger picking we talked about. It's really amazing. Great melody, harmonies, hypnotic rhythm, syncopated rhythm, and drums. So, okay. Next song.
I will say before you introduce it, the whole electric side for me is so perfect, and these next series of songs are some of my favorites.
Oh yeah, yeah. Outlaw blues, heavy blues,
very heavy.
It's an outlaw. You reject social norms, expectations, and rebellion. It's challenging authority, living life on your own terms, embracing one's true self and living in it nonconformity. I think I might have got that one.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I love the line he says here. Well, I might look like Robert Ford, but I feel just like Jesse James.
Yeah.
What a great line! Like that's his attitude. He's like, yo, I feel like this is a sort of not biographical, but it makes sense because when you look at the Newport Folk Festival performance, he dons a leather jacket and
Hmm.
puts on the Fender Strat instead of his acoustic and harmonica. He still has a harmonica, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
he's feeling like Jesse James.
Oh, definitely. And I think he's going for that biker attitude. I think
Yep,
this.
yep, yep,
I am a biker outlaw, not like Jesse James. Not a cowboy. Like outlaw biker, kind
yep.
of Hell's Angel. Um, Heavy blues, traditional blues riff, melodic electric guitar. Now the rumor has it Mike Bloomfield played on it, but didn't get credited. I don't know if anybody,
I could see that.
if anybody wants to put that in the notes. Driving rhythm,
Yeah.
raw live recording. You know, any more comments on that?
No, just a great blues track.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is where I feel like I'm school getting a test. So he is so hard. Good luck analyzing Bob Dylan. Now, you even said it. People asked him, I analyzed your song. This is what it's about. And he's like, no, you got it wrong. So I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad. Neil Peart, I'm going to get right every single 9 out of 10 times. I'm getting Neil or Steve Harris right. Okay. Now you're the expert. So that's why, I'm glad you know so much. On the road again. Now, is this about a relationship?
So this is another sneaky song where very blues style, right? So it has I'm sure you probably mentioned it. It's a simple rhythm and blues rock number with the 12 bar structure.
Yeah.
Has a nice beat. It's thrusting. It's I like his singing on it, and it's it's so it's actually very similar to Maggie's Farm. So that's the problem. We don't know exactly what he's talking about here, but what it does seem like, it does sound like a relationship song.
Yeah. So I'm saying, moving on from a relationship, escaping the past, need to move forward,
Mhm.
maybe about Joan Baez.
It could be, or maybe Sarah Lowndes. Like the more I read into it,
And then
maybe.
there's a Georgia Satellite song with No Huggy, No Kissy. You know that song from the '80s? They stole it. Georgia Satellite. I'm gonna send it to you. They stole it.
Uh oh.
Uh,
Just to, and I love his style of singing here and lyrics where he says here, "Well, I wake up in the morning, there are frogs inside my socks. Well, mama, she's hiding inside the icebox. Your daddy comes wearing a Napoleon Bonaparte mask." Again, that absurd surrealism is coming through.
oh,
And you ask, and it's funny, then he says, and you ask me why I don't live here. Honey, how come you have to ask? And that, it's great.
nuts.
It could be a relationship song. In my opinion, you could read it as sort of a married man's song. Where I haven't been married. You're the expert here. Where, on the road again. Sometimes, again, I'm not saying this with all marriage, but if you listen to the song and look at the lyrics very carefully,
Yeah.
and this is a young Dylan. He's so perceptive.
Married
Like,
or not at that time? No.
not yet, but he was in a few relationships.
Yeah.
So again, but for him to have this kind of like funny wisdom, um, he could be talking about freedom from domestic life as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think he wants his freedom back because a relationship, we talked about this steals your freedom.
It does for the. I know it's gonna be controversial for the male. I think it does steal freedom.
Gonna be brutally honest about it. Relationship steals your freedom. So, you want to lock yourself in your room for 5 hours and play your bass, but you got to go somewhere with the missus. And
Are those males that are those husbands that say the boss wants me home, or
oh yeah, that you at the temple and can I help you? Oh, well, I got to wait for the boss. I'm like, I'm gonna pull dice right now. Where's your balls, dude? You're the fucking boss.
I mean honestly, like part of me like being a teaching males. I don't know. I could be wrong. You're the wise sage in this one. I get all my stuff on philosophy, religion, Neil Peart, and I'll be honest with you. I am all about asserting free will. Hate to say it. I don't like when someone steals my free will.
It didn't work for me because I think I was too much, you know, into my own thing, and I wasn't able to, you know, yes, dear, yes, dear. I realized that too late, and I told you my Angus story. That guy that I met, if you married, he was like from Austria. Could be a bird in a cage.
Ha! You
Yeah,
married?
and I'm like, why? I just got engaged. He's like, you're like a bird in a cage.
You,
Hey,
you know what's funny? When I entered into a long-term relationship, that's what's a few curmudgeons said to me. And at first, I was like, "Nah, man, I believe in true love, like a sucker." I
well,
believe,
no, you're not a sucker. You're a romantic. Like I'm a romantic. Like I'm a
right?
romantic. We wanted the romance, the love. You want all that shit. It's fun, you know. Um, but I don't. For me, it didn't. It my no. It existed for me for a long, long, long time. I did. I was blessed to have that. I did. Part two of my life, it wasn't like that. So romance and true love exist.
It,
I'm not saying it does.
it'll
I
be. We had this conversation at the temple, but from a
Yeah.
philosophical and psychological perspective, I know we talked about does true love exist, and the male point of view does not get talked about. People always focus on the female part,
Yeah.
but I feel for my fellow males because I'm seeing a pattern that sometimes males get lost in their relationship. And don't get me wrong, like I get it, you know. Um, the problem is that a lot of them live like Middletown dreams,
You read my mind.
and
Say that.
dude, all their passion gets robbed. And this invention of the middle life crisis, I feel like that's a fabrication. The reason why it happens is because males, they let themselves get lost,
Yeah.
eclipse, and
You
I
you
don't
got
know, man.
you got to be true to yourself. I was blessed to have a great relationship for 22 years. Had a child. That was true love. I lived it. I know it exists. Part two was the mistake. Thinking that can happen again. It only happens one time. Only happens once. There's no such thing as two or three in my book. And I know, man, you're gonna find it because you're a romantic. You're a good guy. I don't want it anymore. Fuck you very much. You know what I mean? Even if it knocks at my door, fuck off. Been there. Don't want it. It feels. It sucks away the creativity. What you really want. I would say to anybody, male or female, if you're not happy, don't do it. Don't fall into the trap of whatever Middletown. You become Middletown dreams and all that. But it's a beautiful thing when you're in a good relationship like I was for 22 years, and you get a beautiful child out of the deal. That's a great thing. That's my philosophy on it. So it does exist. True love does exist. You only get one shot at it. Don't go for a second time or a fucking third time or a fourth time.
And you can approach it from like what is true love though? Like that's another kind of like problem because because it could be different for a lot of folks, and that's why males. And I focus on the males because I think females have enough help. That's just my opinion. They speak to their friends, and there's definitely more of a female-dominated thing in society right now.
But
Um,
with the woman aspect of it is that there's a clock ticking.
well, that's one part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's more urgency on their part,
Yeah. So
right? So
they know, and like 26, 27, 28, we're climbing up that ladder. Time to get married. And the guy's like, I want to get married. No fucking guy in the right mind that says he wants to get married. He's to be shot in the fucking face if he wants to get married, you know. But he ends up getting married. I'm not saying. I mean, if you're really in love, I was in love the first time. True love. I was blessed. I thank God every day for my first marriage. Still love her to this day. Um, and got a beautiful daughter out of the deal. But when you get forced into something and you don't want to do it, you're just but like prescription pills and alcohol may have an influence on you. So,
I feel yeah, man. Let's just be careful and just going back to Bob Dylan. I think that's what the song. It's funny. Dylan's only like young when he's singing this, but he's talking about these problems where this poor dude is stuck in this relationship, and then he says here. Then you ask. He's talking to his maybe lover or wife, and says here, "Then why you ask why I don't live here, honey? I could have asked you why you don't move." Like, and
yeah,
he's like, he's trapped. And again, that free will aspect that you mentioned is right.
I wish I had the free will, in my second part of my life, because like I said, I'm not knocking my first part of my life because that was the best part of my life ever. Um, but for people out there, don't get trapped. That's all, male or female. I don't want to be one sided. Don't become the Middletown dream guy or girl. You know, if you're not happy, don't go. And the divorce rate is going up, and people
It's
Facebook,
high. It's high.
so much sex and shit out there, and so many ways to like find people. You can Instagram. I mean, you can PayPal a hooker right now. You know what I mean? When your wife's out of town, so it's like so. Back in the day, it was hard. You had to go on the streets. You got to look for these women. Not you just PayPal them. Anyway, but so it's I don't know. Just make right choices. We'll end it at that note. Any comments before we move on?
No, I think Bob Dylan. This is what Bob Dylan songs about, on the road again. Then males that realizes, yep, on the road again. We out of here.
Exactly. I think we just went down a tangent. You get me going, man. I look out for you, man. You will find Manny will find true love, and like I did, I found it. You will find it.
Thanks, man.
Okay. Um. So okay. This is a great one because he makes a mistake in the beginning, and I love that.
I love. This is my one. Actually, I have to say that I'll just go on and say this is probably my favorite song in the album.
Yeah, this is a great song. I love the intro. I love the mistake. I love the laughter, the humanism. He's not perfect. We all make mistakes. I love keeping that in there. Humble Pie does it on Smoking.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because the track. Yeah, you're right. So I think that's the first take, right? And
yeah,
and Tom Wilson is the one that's heard bursting into laughter.
yeah. And Zeppelin does it too on Physical Graffiti. I love when bands keep their mistakes, and it's fun.
Amazing. It's amazing.
What I love about this song is it starts off like it's going to be slow for like a half a second, and then it's
Yeah.
real fast. I think I nailed this one. I'm going to be pretty confident on this one. I would even go. I would tell Bob Dylan. I think I got you on this one. Stream of consciousness is all over this. Definitely. Yep. Wordplay, irony, absurdity. The absurdity is like, it's crazy. Captain Ahab from Moby Dick pops up.
Yep.
Talks about, the American dream, being a sailor, going to jail for carrying a harpoon. Then he goes into a restaurant. It's like, okay, all over the place. It's like, I really I don't know where else to go with this except for the first three that I said. Irony, wordplay, absurdity. Those are the three important aspects. Lyrics, it's too much to cover.
Yeah, we probably need its own episode, but straight from the title, Bob Dylan's 115 Dream. Yeah, Dylan is telling you, brace yourself. This is going to be a stream of and for those of I know you're familiar with stream of consciousness, like
poetry,
art and work and poetry. It can be a lot for and this song bless you with. It's pretty much. I think you got it. It's Dylan's take on U.S. history and his comments on the American dream, but from a surreal perspective. And one of the best lines I love so much, and people forget that Dylan is a funny guy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that. He's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he says here,
sarcasm.
Very sarcastic and sardonic. Like, he's very, very, he says, well, last stanza, he says here, well, the last I heard of Arab, he was stuck on a whale, right? So a little nod at Moby Dick, that was married to the deputy sheriff of the jail. Do you understand what he's saying here?
Yeah.
I'm not going into too much detail for the kids here, but But the funniest thing was when I was leaving the bay, I
Wait,
spot three ship.
that means
But
he was in a relationship when he's stuck on the wheel.
I think he's calling the deputy sheriff's wife a fat person.
Oh, a fat person. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
look. Well, the last I heard of Arab, he was stuck on a whale that was married to the deputy sheriff of the jail.
Oh, I see. I see.
So
Oh,
either he married a whale or he's calling the sheriff's wife a whale.
oh, you got to really dig. You got to dig on
Yeah,
that.
he's being funny here. And this
Yeah,
is Arab, right? The iconic character from Moby Dick.
yeah.
And then he
Wow.
says, here, I spot three ships sailing and they were all coming my way. I asked the captain what his name was and how come he didn't drive a truck. And he said his name was Columbus. And then he says, oh, good luck. So, so it's like Dylan's take on American history and his,
Yeah.
you know,
So there's some history there. You know, we always dig for
oh,
history.
dude, there's a lot of history. We don't have time to kind of talk about it.
You know, he's not the kind of guy you're gonna break it down, but like you broke it down really nice. Like you know, the characters pop up. That's the absurdity. Um, so music up tempo, fast, great guitar work. Um, what does I say? Mellow intro and it gets fast. Yeah, that's what I really like about it. So that's pretty much what I got for the music. So really, really good song.
It's my favorite on the album. And then it's so hard because it's like Rush's, like, you know how he said, which is the best Rush song on
Yeah,
this album? Man, I'll be honest, just from my taste, this says a lot about me. This is one of my favorite all time, like probably top three,
really, more than Maggie's Farm.
more than Maggie's Farm. Maggie's Farm probably gets bumped up because of that iconic performance,
Yeah.
which I love so much. And just because it gets me thinking, man, imagine hearing this song for the first time
Yeah.
at that time.
Well, it made me think. I had a thought. I didn't say it. Back in the day, I was hanging out in Greenwich somewhere by the water. And you know we're all cranking, like we're like cranking up Maiden. We're all drunk, and there's a homeless dude leaned up against who he leaned up against the thing, and he was just telling us crazy stories, and he's like, I fucked Janis Joplin at Little Dick's in Port Chester, New York, after she played the Capitol. I was like, I know she played the Capitol, and I know she was at Little Dick's. She rented out the bar after the show. And this guy, so then he's like, that shit you're listening to now, because it was like heavy metal. It might have been Metallica and Maiden, and or have Slayer. Wasn't Rush or anything. All the shit we were, getting pumped up to. He goes, you kids don't know how to listen to music. You don't know how to listen to lyrics. That's your problem. I was like, and that stuck with me. And he was right. Like I did, but like the average kid isn't listening to lyrics. This man's generation, which was Bob Dylan's generation, he listened to lyrics. He had no choice. Put an album on. You listen to it. I just thought I'd share that story, how listening to lyrics is so important, whether they not, or that kind of thing.
It's sad because now that art of listening to lyrics is lost today.
You have
It's even worse.
You have a genre called mumble rap. No disrespect. I like Little Uzi a lot. I like him, but it's called mumble rap. How can you understand what they're saying? I like the genre. Don't get me wrong, but you're not getting a message out of it.
And not only that, but also most music today, lyrically, and again, I'm not trying to say that the music is bad, just from my perspective, because I hear it, I listen to it. There's some catchy stuff, but they definitely don't care as much on the lyrics as much as, they're trying to reach the masses. And most of the masses don't listen to the lyrics. That's why Taylor Swift can get away from being a bad lyricist.
You don't have to be a great lyric. The days of Dylan, the days of Phil,
she calls herself a poet. Who's in the right mind? Are you a poet?
To a 12-year-old who never heard Dylan Thomas, she's a poet. Never heard Lord Byron. She might be a poet. You know what I mean? But the poor kid is not ever going to understand poetry. And God forbid if the kid heard Neil Peart, Phil Lynott, Bob Dylan. God forbid. but it's like that. So she is a poet to a 12-year-old who was fucking clueless and
Brainless, brain dead.
brain dead. Brain dead is a good word, but it's not the 12-year-old fault because that
No,
12-year-old doesn't have a vehicle to,
no.
unless the parents or like our parents were cool. We got turned on to music.
Yep.
If parents are just like throwing shit at them, they're gonna listen to Taylor Swift.
No, and that's the sad part because most of these parents nowadays, that's what they do. Like they're bad. I'm not saying they're bad parents, but dude, it's like me as a teacher. I try to include a lot of stuff from the past, and even if they don't want to hear
Yeah,
it, I don't care. You're gonna listen to it, and you're gonna
you
learn
know,
how to.
I learned about music from my parents. I
Mhm.
learned about Carole King Tapestry from my mother. Being a small child, she cranked that up. I look at her this hippie lady holding a cat on the album cover and just stare at it. I think my mother said I used to think it was a picture of her. As how little I was. My dad turned me on to doo-wop Dion and the Belmonts, Motown. My dad was always cranking up Motown. The Beatles. They played the Beatles religiously. Grand Funk, The Doors. Got all that shit. Thank God. And then as I got older, I had older aunts, like a decade older than like Silkman's age. Then I got into the heavy shit, Boston, Sabbath, Deep Purple, Rush, 2112. So where's that 12-year-old kid? They're not getting that. They're just getting like, here's a phone.
No, and again, just I guess for our listeners, and this is a really important discussion because, um, I, I'm not saying that you know, um, I don't know. I could be the wrong person, but look at this. Like, when there's a Kendrick Lamar album lyric, listen to this. I can't tell you what it is. I can tell you what it isn't. No more K. Dot. My mother had named me Kendrick. Fuck a stage name. That's the name that I was given. The only thing that I can identify with is business. I'm just a good kid from. I mean, like, it's okay. And mind you, he's mumbling this. I'm.
Oh, I almost got crucified for saying mumble about this guy. I called him a mumble rap guy. I
Yeah.
all cut off for saying that.
And it's crazy. I think Kendrick won a Nobel Prize in music, I think.
What?
And I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's a tough thing. In
Ah,
my opinion, when I look at music as a whole in a historical context, I don't know. When you there's a reason why Dylan will stand the test of time. The Beatles, um, even someone like Michael Jackson. There's a
like
reason
like Kendrick Lamar doesn't have enough background to win a Nobel Prize. Like Prince should have won.
Um,
Prince should have won one, or Michael Jackson. Like I,
crazy,
I'm
right? He won it, and people were praising this. And young people, I'll be honest with you, it's not till, and this is a cognitive psychology fact, but
yeah.
you will not reach maturity until you are 24, 25. Why? Because your prefrontal cortex will finish developing and maturing. And so, like, when you see people, that's why I can't respect them. Not that I don't respect opinions of someone that makes a case for, mumble, without getting too much
Well, you're
detail.
talking this generation we're living in, like kids that are like
Oh, it's gotten worse.
those. Like by the time they're 30, they developed maybe.
No. Generally speaking, their prefrontal cortex finished developing around the year 24, 25.
Really? Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
Wow.
So my point with that is that Kendrick Lamar reaches the young masses like Taylor Swift, 18-year-olds. Like, it's shocking. I had a student who's probably 12 years old listening to the Kendrick Lamar album. I'm not his parent, so I don't give a crap, right? Like, I'm not there to parent.
Yeah,
But, I want to tell him, you do realize, like, that music is brain rot, right?
yeah,
Because it's not, yes, it's young. It's what's cool. It's what everyone's listening to.
yeah.
But, and I got this experience when I was in high school, when I got exposed to really good music like Springsteen. For me, it changed my life because I realized, oh, music is actually something more than just, something that you put on in the background or something that the young people say vibe to.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. No, there's a meaning behind music. This is why we're doing like 4 hours on Bob Dylan. You know,
Yeah, we totally deserved.
we couldn't do 4 hours on Little Uzi.
I mean, we could bashing him.
You know, we could 4 hours on Kendrick Lamar, and I don't want to bash any. Like, I'm not bashing Kendrick Lamar. I think he's really talented. All inside jokes and stuff. What we're doing with Kendrick Lamar, but Taylor Swift, no, that's not an. No, this is factual. You know, there's they're not going to be talking about her in 40 years like we. Okay, wait, no, more than 40 years. 1960 years of 65 we're in right now.
Yeah, 65.
That's 60 years ago, this album came out. Older than me.
It's crazy, and I would rather listen to this over stuff that I listen to now. I hate to say it, and the question becomes: people who are very linked in with like the archetypal life, to use a young term. Why is that, right? Like, and going back to we mentioned a Rush term, superconductor.
Yeah.
I've always realized I'm not so without mentioning certain names, they kept pushing me to listen to Kendrick album, Mr. Morale, and I did it because, and don't get me wrong, like production wise, it's good. Kendrick has been influenced by a lot of blues, jazz, and soul from the past, which was cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. But I think to myself, will I listen? First of all, will I re-listen to this album? No. Do I agree with some of the stuff he says lyrically? No. Am I gonna listen to this when I'm 50? No.
but
am I gonna cover this if I let's say if I perform live and no? And why is that? It is, and more. And I put on Bob Dylan's "Bring It All Back Home." This I listened to 10 times before the podcast.
Yeah, and then here's the other thing: in 60 years from now, are there going to be two people doing a podcast on Kendrick Lamar?
No.
In an age gap, like
there is, but but
look at the age gap. Like me and you, we're like 20 years difference. So would a guy in his 50s be talking to a 30-year-old about Kendrick Lamar and what's her name, Zoe LeVay over there? You know what I mean? In like in the next 50, 60 years, I doubt it. I don't think it's going to happen. The music.
No, and that's how you're linked up in the, again, I love Young. I think he was kind of right in this. There's an archetype world. The people, I'm not trying to say that people that listen to this music are like dumb but I guess it applies to old souls that no matter what age, like that's why like me and my dad, we're like, my dad's 70, right? And
Right.
But he and I, and my siblings have a hard time talking, but he and I are linked up. Like, look, you and I, and Joe Silkman and I, and Leslie, I like his comments and opinions. He's like a dying breed, sadly, like in terms of his opinions. But then I have trouble with certain people without mentioning too many names at the temple, and I respect their opinions. Like, don't get me wrong, like I was trained in the art of debate and rhetoric and argument because so I respect their opinions. I'm not gonna straw man people. Like, Lamar is talented for what he is.
Most way he's talented, but
Taylor Swift is talented in her own way. Not just to give her a little credibility. She is rescuing music in terms of, young people recognizing, oh yeah, let's go see this artist live, right? Because live music is
but like if you have millions of dollars, anybody can do that. Siegfried and Roy did it in Vegas for years.
Yeah, right. But they're taking advantage of these people whose prefrontal cortex are not developed. And by the way, when I reached 24, bro, I couldn't listen to his music anymore. I hate to say it. That's why I'm shocked with certain coworkers still listen to this, because I look at them, I'm like, why? Like, why? I would rather listen to like old Spanish music.
Right.
Because there's more like and people, and I hate how everyone makes this a race issue. I in my philosophy, I reject all that because we get nowhere with this. Like, it's more of a music issue because there's definitely a vacuum in music. Like, and again, go back to Bob Dylan, and when you listen to Bob Dylan's 115th Dream, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, this man, 22 years old, you know, not to say he was, I'm not sure he was 21, 22, but
Gene.
he's a genius because he was linked up in the world of archetypes. Like he was able to pull from all that, like Neil Peart, pull all that and create some genius work that,
They were about the same age, writing genius lyrics. So it's a
yeah,
gift from God, and it's education. Bob Dylan was educated. He might not have been.
yeah,
He might not have been a reader like Pert, but he was thought provoking, looking at the world, reading the news, seeing what's
yep,
going
yep.
on. He knew,
His brain operated. He was able to put ideas together in such a unique way.
yeah, he was definitely cultivating the way the world was going, the Vietnam War, civil rights movement, and putting that into his, social commentary. He's the king of social commentary. We talked
No, for
about
sure.
Rush getting into that later on, but Dylan is the king of social commentary. So before we go up on another tangent, which is great, I love it.
Yeah, man, we might get some hate on a few things we're saying.
This is the longest Cheech and Manny music podcast in history. And
Yeah,
and here's a nice fuck you very much to Mrs. Doubtfire. You can't stop us.
all the Mrs. Doubtfires.
We can be like that the fucking queef, what's his name? Mr. and go on for 24 hours and watch, I got no shoes on. I'll pick my fingernail, my toenails for an hour. Maybe we'll get more views, you know.
So sad.
You don't want to see me sleeping for 24 hours. No, not gonna happen. And yet you're got a billion views. I don't get it.
It's the age we're living in.
But he's doing something like that. No, and it's that cortex you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people that are like tuning in. So we got Mr. Beast. Give us a couple more episodes. Okay. Mr. Tambourine Man. This reminds me of being a kid. And I don't know if it's the Dylan one or the Birds. I'm kind of like, I hear them both in my head. But I always being on the radio, like AM radio, the classic Mr. Tambourine Man. I was always cranked up, summer picnics and stuff. This is him going mellow now. Now he's mellow. So
back in acoustic too and harmonica.
Yeah, we got back. No more electric. Now he's going. He's giving a nod to the folk stuff. I think I got this one, and then we're gonna ask the important question. Okay, who is Mr. Tambourine Man? But I'm not gonna set up yet. Okay, poetic imagination, a tale of a man's search for inspiration, vivid imagery and symbolism, a quest for inspiration, seeking to escape the mundane and find music. So I think, how you feel about that? Is that a good analogy of this song?
Yeah, and this song is actually very difficult to decipher. This is a strange song, and it's funny, the Birds, who popularized the song, they only took some parts of it.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, they didn't do the whole song, because the whole song is like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's 5 minutes long, and he's talking about it. It's very difficult song to kind of like talk about in terms of like.
For those of you who don't know who the Birds are, check the Birds out because they around the same era as Dylan, and they did a great cover of this.
They got famous for their Dylan covers,
and they used Rickenbacker guitars, which is Tom Petty. They're on Tom Petty, who's another genius, another songwriter, poet in a way. I love Tom Petty. So who is Mr. Tambourine Man? And I think it's music. I think it's
a metaphor for music, yeah.
A metaphor for music, and we talked a little bit about what a tambourine is.
Exactly what it does, yeah.
It's an odd instrument. It's like paper and wood and little jingle jangle types of things. John Bonham had one on his hi-hat, which is cool. It's a fun fact. And, you see like the Hare Krishnas, banging on them and stuff like that, country music, they use it, not used much anymore. I don't think like people.
No.
Dixieland music maybe, but like I can't imagine, folk music, obviously. you're not going to see tambourine. Maybe in like New Orleans jazz stuff like that, But I don't
Right.
really. Tambourine is a dying breed of an instrument.
A few rock frontmen use it to,
Yeah,
like Peter Gabriel would kind of like in Genesis would take out the
rock.
tambourine, but
Steve.
yeah. I will say the song is actually one of the takes I see is it's a religious song.
Oh, church music they use tambourine. That's a good.
Mr. Tambourine Man is a metaphor for Jesus, in my opinion. Like the
I
more
like.
I look at the song,
I like that. I like that.
it's a sweet song and very nice acoustic number.
Yeah.
Famous, one of Dylan's like best known hits.
Oh yeah. Catchy melody. I love the sing along quality. You could sing
Yeah,
along.
it's a great sing along song.
Folk influence, repetitive pattern, acoustic guitar, obviously tambourine, has like a surreal vibe, great rhythm and great harmonica. The harmonica in it is like, once again,
It's great.
He's the guy on harmonica. So check out Mr. Tambourine Man. Probably one of his most famous songs, I would say.
And I think it's because of the Birds. They
Yeah.
popularized it.
Okay. Well, almost at the end.
Next one is The Gates of Eden.
Yeah, I just want to.
Which is probably my third favorite song.
Feel a cough. Excuse me. I did pretty good for about 5 hours.
Not bad. So The Gates of Eden is another. I think is so underrated.
Yeah,
and it's definitely one of the most obviously religious songs.
Yeah,
it's interesting because Bob Dylan at this time was not religious, as far
No,
as I
but
know.
it's about the Garden of Eden, paradise. He talks
That's the
about
obvious.
Themes of love.
If anything, this might be his most political song.
I'm not seeing that.
And if you look at the lyrics carefully, he's saying that the world outside is just horrible. But he says not, and again, but it gives a case for religion. So this is what's so weird about the song.
And he was writing this in 1965 that the world was horrible. Imagine how he must in 2025. Like, God, someone like Dylan. I would love to ask him what he thinks of social media. But
a lot of things, yeah.
What does he think from the kid who wrote this? If that dude was plopped 60 years later in a time machine and it's like, all right, here you are, he'd be like, what the fuck? What are these guys doing on a phone and a computer talking about me? He wouldn't probably even understand that concept. He would probably think it's cool, but like if he just looked at Facebook and girls twerking, you'd be like, what is this? Like, what happened to the world?
Well, if he saw that, if I can quote his lyric, he's gonna say, he's gonna say, there are no truth aside the gates of Eden.
Yeah. Those are the snakes twerking, So, poetic, philosophical, a ballad, searching for meaning. He brings up paradise, meaning the gate, meaning the Garden of Eden.
Yep.
And I like the Black Madonna. You want to explain the Black Madonna? And I know the Black Madonna from the esoteric Black Madonna, but explain the Black Madonna.
You're talking about the motorcycle Black Madonna?
Yeah, that he says.
And two-wheel gypsy queen?
Yeah.
And her silver-studded phantom caused the great flannel dwarf to scream. And just read the lyrics. As he weeps to wicked birds of prey who pick up on his breadcrumb sins, and there are no sins inside the gates of Eden. Yeah. So, I'll be honest with you. The more you look at those lyrics, I don't think the motorcycle Black Madonna, two-wheel gypsy queen, and her silver-studded phantom caused the great flannel dwarf to scream. That was surreal. Like this. Well, if Bob Dylan and myself are thinking of the same Black Madonna, the Black Madonna is a famous image of the Virgin Mary.
Right.
In Polish culture, and she's actually pretty famous.
Yeah. I don't want to bring up the esoteric Black Madonna, but that's
it could be the esoteric too. Who knows?
Yeah. Because I'm not sure if Is the Black Madonna in any of the Bible text?
It's a famous image of the Virgin Mary.
Okay.
It's a famous image that there's a legend that the image was painted by Luke, the evangelist,
Right, right.
and it's kind of a legendary, a very haunting image. It's from the Bible because it's obviously Luke is if we believe the legend, this is a painting that Luke did of the Virgin Mary.
Yeah. Wow. I just like that. I like that he put that in there. That always like little things like in his song stick out of my head, like Captain
Mm-hmm.
Ahab, Halloween and Christmas. Um, did I talk about the music? No.
Good. It's simple,
Oh,
acoustically beautiful.
this is a good one. This is interesting. This one, melancholic, simple melody, haunting. This is fascinating that I picked up. He's using different modes and scales. So a mode is like taking a C scale and just changing, the second or the third or the fifth, flattening it, or there's a Phrygian mode, Dorian mode,
Right.
Mixolydian mode, um, and Locrian mode. That's a famous one. That's the bullfight one. And he kind of does that with this song. He used modes to create tension, and it's in a minor key, and it's influenced by a traditional folk song called Nutsum Town. So he kind of borrowed that idea with a lot of
Mm.
guys. You know? And I know Jimmy Page does that a lot. I forgot what song. Remember we were talking about it on Zeppelin 3. Jimmy Page borrowed from
Here we
oh
were.
who did it? Lead Belly did it, and I sent you a copy of it.
Right, right.
Gallows Pole. Gallows Pole.
Mm.
Taken from an old myth, folk song. All right. So now we're at the end, the closing track.
Two of them. I think there's two more.
Is there two more?
Yeah, next one is
It's all right.
It's All Right, Mom, Only Bleeding, and It's All Over Now, Baby Blue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's all right, Mom. Only bleeding. I like that.
It's a great title.
Makes you think.
Very grim song. I will say Dylan and these tracks, with the exception of Mr. Tambourine Man, all these songs are grim.
Are you saying it's all right, Ma, I'm only bleeding because, you're a little kid? Ma, I cut myself. I'm playing outside.
That's a reference to it. It's all right, Ma. I'm only bleeding.
Or did I just get shot in the stomach?
That's the thing. I don't know. And this song is so, dude. Bleeding Five is the most heavily philosophical song,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Again, just because we're going over already 2 hours, but it's
Oh,
phenomenal acoustic number. One of my favorites.
This is the longest Cheech and Manny show ever.
I know.
And,
I didn't mean to make it this long.
but you know what? It's Bob Dylan. You
Telling you, yeah.
can't fudge it. It's like, and I think we're going to get listeners because people who like Bob Dylan are going to be curious, for this.
Yeah.
I'll speed it up a little bit so we don't go into Mr. Beast world. So Mama, Ma, I'm only bleeding. Social norms, government, institutions, moral decay, personal freedom, conforming, and dark humor.
Mm-hmm. Very dark.
Irony, sarcasm, and the thing that comes up, absurdity, constantly with him.
Yeah. No, and I will say again, starting with Mr. Tambourine Man is the sweetest song. Like, it's great. These next tracks, starting with The Gates of Eden, It's All Right, Mom, I'm Only Bleeding, like acoustically beautiful, phenomenal. But he's stepping away from the ideal, like sort of like, early folk stuff and getting really dark. Like, I'll be honest with you, it's I'm kind of curious what inspired him to write this really dark material, because the songs don't end well. And just to finish, go ahead.
I think I can answer that. In 1965, we're getting into the Vietnam War.
It could be, but I'll be honest with you, I think there's something more. I think Dylan was no doubt, because that time was so turbulent. And
Russia, the threat of nuclear weapons, Vietnam War, a lot of dark, Rush had it bad, everything under Grace Under Pressure. That was
Yeah,
nothing. This is like,
it could be nuclear war, Vietnam War. I think assassinations, riots in the street.
what year
Um,
get shot? 65?
I think around this period.
Maybe earlier. No, because Johnson's president, I think, at this point. Yeah, no,
It's just it's this time period is just terrible. There's a lot
I,
of unrest and chaos.
I think it was 63 Kennedy got shot.
But the thing is with these songs, though, there's you're right. Gates of Eden definitely talks about like but what's so strange about this is there's a religious side to it. Like
Yeah.
this is kind of like pro religion, and is it Gates of Eden, Mr. Tambourine Man, and then this song he's getting really surreal, and a little kind of very very sardonic and sarcastic. But some of the lines, if you listen to it, look at this: disillusioned words like bullets bark as human gods aim for their mark. Make
Right.
everything from toy guns that spark to flesh-colored Christ that glow in the dark. It's easy to see without looking too far that not much, and look at this, that not much is really sacred. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in Dylan's head. And then and then he ends the song with, my eyes collide head on with stuffed graveyards, false gods. Again, false gods. Dylan is lost. I'll be honest with you, I think he's going through a dark period.
Yeah.
I scoff at pettiness which plays so rough, walk upside down inside handcuffs, kick my legs to crash it off, say, okay, I've had enough. What else can you show me? And then he says here, and if my thought dreams could be seen, and look at this line, this is kind of like a wink because people will want to put his head in a guillotine, but he says here, they probably put my head in a guillotine, but it's all right, ma, it's life and life only.
And
Like
he's saying,
it's
almost like he's saying, Ma, this is what I'm saying to you.
It's sad, and who's ma, right? Which ma is he referring to?
Filling his guts to mama could be a woman, girlfriend, hot mama, or
You know what's
ma.
funny? I argue too. It could be I'm not putting the more I listen to the song, because there are two theories with this song. The first one is that he could be talking about like the Virgin Mary, like listen, mother, help, like it's all right, mom, I'm okay, I'm only bleeding, and at the end he's at the end of his rope. Another one is the archetype of mom. Moms are supposed to be comforting. They provide safety. So every line at the end, he's saying it's over for him. They're gonna put his head in a guillotine, but he's saying it's okay. It's life and life only. But it's dark. And talk about the music. Chi. Do you have anything on the music?
Yeah. Simple.
Show you the guitar riff, the acoustic riff, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah. It's folk influenced, minor keys, and the chords are typical folk chords that he's using. Those like 1 to the 3 to the 4. If you're in the key of G, you're gonna go like G, which is the 1 to the 3rd to the 4th, back to the root and to the 5th. So it's all over. It's like almost like church music. Like that kind of.
See, I'm telling you, that's not that's why when I read these lyrics, I hear religious themes, which is.
But it's minor. It's in a minor key, so it's dark. So it's very dark. Mm-hmm. Great storytelling, poetic lyrics, minor key, great guitar riff. There's a lot going on in this song. Yeah. So, let me see. So, all over. Well, anything else on that song? Or
no, one of my favorites too, like all time.
Really, really good. It's all over now, baby blue. I think I got this one. I think I nailed this one. The end of a relationship, saying goodbye, it's over. Once again, Joni Mitchell pops up.
Joan Baez?
I'm sorry, Joan Baez. Yeah,
right. I could see that. It's all over now. And there's been a lot of speculation. Who is Baby Blue? Like, who is this?
Did she have blue eyes? Joan Baez?
No idea. She was pretty though.
It was cute. Yeah. She's still alive. I wonder what she looks like now.
Let's see. She's still alive. Yeah.
It got to be close to 80.
83.
Oh my God.
He's
Holy shit.
he's like a living legend now.
God. It's like,
Imagine all she knows about Dylan.
no, it's crazy. She's 83 years old.
I'm trying to see if she has like blue eyes. No, she has hazelnut. Nope. Oh, like
Okay.
brown.
Okay. So I mean, I think it's about her. End of a relationship, saying goodbye, it's over, freedom, escaping, watching the lover. No, I'm sorry, encouraging the lover to move on.
Well,
Social,
I'll be honest. It could be no, and I say like great. Um. I think it two levels. One is goodbye to the folk world
yeah,
because after this, it's over because he will end up releasing. First of all, he'll end up pissing more people off, but he ends up releasing Highway 61 Revisited and Blonde on Blonde. Effectively, no more folk. Like he's so when he sings this song, there's a sadness to the song where
goodbye
he
to the.
says it's all over now, baby blue. And then the other level is also goodbye to Joan Baez, which I
Yeah.
also I kind of support that theory.
I think it's a combination of both because Joan Baez is folk music. It's
I
one.
I, I was gonna say, yeah, and at this point, not that folk music died, but I'll be honest with you, rock and roll is coming.
Yeah, and let me just say this. I I met Mary from Peter, Paul, and Mary in the temple. That was I
That's
forgot.
crazy. Do tell.
I just thought of it now. I don't know why. So I there was this weird guy who was a flower guy many years ago, and he's like, you know who that is? And she was very attractive. She was an older woman at this point.
Right.
It was Mary from Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I'm like, what? They sang Puff the Magic Dragon, like when I was a kid. And then I went up to her and I got to hang out with her, and I obviously knew her other music. She was so nice, and I waited on her for years. Just a sweet, sweet woman.
I mean,
Just
that whole trio was like so sweet, and iconic, right? Of the folk scene.
oh, they were huge, beautiful in
I,
there.
I I stumbled upon a live Christmas album from them. Great harmonies, like
Yeah,
live.
yeah, they're super, super huge in the folk scene. But they stayed folk. They didn't.
Yeah, they kind of, but they got eclipsed though because they're not really talked about as much.
No, because I think like the folk scene is gone by.
Yeah,
you
at this point, and it's funny, it's replaced in the 1970s with the singer-songwriter movement.
Right, like Croce and
James Taylor, Carole King, Joni Mitchell,
and which
Neil
is
Young.
our boy, Father and Sons, our boy,
Oh my goodness, Cat
yeah,
Stevens. Yeah.
Air Supply, all that kind of like soft rock stuff, which is
Well,
great.
the Carpenters too, but that will end up as the soft rock
Yeah,
movement.
leads up to it. That's right. We should do a whole show on that because I love,
We have to.
Orleans and the Little River Band.
We could do that. We could trace the origins of how soft rock came to be.
It came from the singer-songwriter like the James Taylor, the Carly Simon.
Right. And today they mistakenly call it yacht rock. Have you heard about this?
I think with
Pretty much music that white people, rich people play on yachts.
whatchamacallit, what's his name? Rick Beato just did a video on that.
Yeah, watch that. I hate that title yacht rock because and it's so funny. I've been on a song that I put on, and this person was like, "Oh, I heard that on my dad's boat." I'm like, "Damn!" Like, I don't know. No, I was like, I told the little red, I was like, "No, this is a great song. Listen to it."
Generation is fucked. I'm sorry, dude. They like yacht. I mean, back when I was a kid, they would. I mean, not even a kid. Maybe in the '80s or mid '80s, they had a thing called AM Gold, and it was all this music we're talking about. There's Eagles, James Taylor, Carly Simon, uh, Joni Mitchell. It was called AM Gold, and that's what it was. AM Gold, AM music. That's what they played.
Well,
And,
not today. They mistakenly call it yacht rock. Like they even Steely Dan, which is really stupid. I don't agree with that at all. But
jazz
No,
rock.
we'll do an episode after this, after our punk episode that we still got to do.
Yeah,
Like we'll do an episode.
yeah. And I got
We'll
to
do. We'll
it.
trace the origins of, this '70s rock movement and where
Yeah,
it went.
because it was Sales and Croft, Loggins and Messina. There's so many duo, a lot of
Yep,
duo.
yep.
You know,
Oh, Carl, did we mention Carly Simon?
yeah, yeah. Carly Simon,
Elton John too, to a certain
yeah,
extent.
You're So Vain is such a one because a lot of people have been trying to find out who that's about.
A
You
lot of
know,
people theorize it's
Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger, and he sings vocals like back vocals,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
weird.
I love
Weird.
Simon. I think she's amazing. I think she's
Yeah.
one of my, Linda Ronstadt. Not that she did some mellow stuff, but there was such a like a nice movement. The Eagles had so many great mellow songs. I love all that stuff, which ends up leading.
Dude, 10cc, Christopher Cross. Dude, I'll be honest, this one of the golden age of music.
That's why Dennis Stratton got kicked out of Mead, and he was listening to DC in the tour bus.
Oh, shit. I love 10cc.
I do too. Harris had a shit fit. He's like, "You're not listening to UFO? Fuck you very much. Leave."
Get on my bus, you broke.
Tense. Even Chicago had some mellow.
Oh, I forgot about Chicago and the Doobie Brothers.
Oh yeah, the Doobies. So yeah. So where was I now?
All right, so we wrapped up and it's all over now, Baby Blue. And now, Cheech, talk about the album cover.
Oh yeah, this is fucking insane. I mean, we've done some crazy album covers with Rush, but I didn't scratch the surface on this. I dug and I advise people who have this album to keep staring at it because
Mm-hmm.
there's so much shit in it that
It's strange, and I something about Carole King also has a cat on her album cover. Which
yeah,
is strange.
were big in the 70s, and the cat's name was Rolling Stone. But the funny thing is, each picture there's a story behind it. There's a story behind what's on it, and I'll explain. Daniel Kramer did the artwork. Edge softer lens. That's something Devontae would probably know because because it has that weird look around it. I guess it's a certain shoot something. Features Sally Grossman, the wife of Dylan's manager, sitting in the back row by a fireplace. Now there's magazines scattered all around. Records are scattered all around, and if you look hard enough, you're going to see Robert Johnson, Ravi Shankar. I don't know who these people are, honestly. Lottie Lenya, Eric von Schmidt. Then this is very interesting. There's a magazine, Time Magazine, with President Lyndon B. Johnson as Man of the Year. Now that's a fuck you because of Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was about to blow up, and I have a thing about Johnson. I talked to my dad and I did a little research. I think Kennedy got us in the Vietnam War, but Johnson is the one who fucked and made it worse. Johnson could have pulled out, but instead, 18-year-olds, middle-class kids were going to fight and die in the front line. So Johnson really was not a good president from what I heard. Dylan's holding a cat named Rolling Stone, and there's an open magazine called the Life of Jean Harlow. It's her life story on the magazine, and I told you this because you got a kick out of it. He has cufflinks that he's wearing that was a gift from Joan Baez. Now, just to bring up some history about Johnson. I don't know if you know anything about Lyndon B. Johnson.
Oh yeah, I love you guys' history.
So I thought I'd bring up a little bit. I don't know enough, but I just know all my life when I heard Johnson in my family and everyone's like, oh, he got us in the Vietnam War. So he pissed off a lot of people because he had a fear of the communist he had the fear of the communism that would, and the expectations. So what he did is he wanted a fast victory in Vietnam, and he wanted the USA to have a lot of troops stationed there, and that's why these poor kids right out of high school, and my parents knew a lot of them. You didn't go to college with the Fortunate Son. That's what that song's about, by CCR. If you didn't go to college in 1967, 66, 68, 69, you went to Vietnam. And like there's a great movie called 1969 where Winona Ryder. You ever see that?
No.
It's about this era, how they had lotteries, and your name would come on TV, your lottery. And if your lottery number got picked, you go into Vietnam, and you're going in the front lines. Imagine being like in high school, you know. So that's just a little brief summary about Johnson. He kept us in the Vietnam War. I guess up until Nixon. I don't really know. I didn't know my history on that. I was born in that era.
Yeah, it lasted quite some time.
I know it ended in 72.
Nixon was when he kind of like pulled us out, but
Yeah, like
that point it was like it was because of all the civil unrest that it wasn't a popular war.
And then Watergate fucked Nixon after he pulls out of Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
We won't go there. What did I read? What did I hear on the news today? He had a weird middle name, Nixon, Wilhouse or something.
Nixon,
Rich Wilhouse Nixon, and I was like, Wilhouse, the fuck? What kind of name is that? Is it Wilhouse?
I have no idea.
Anyway.
And on the album cover, there's also the Fallout Shelter sign, and I think this was Grossman's house, right? Where they took the picture.
Yeah. Oh, you could.
So
I didn't scratch the surface. I mean,
it's weird, the album cover, but it's funny. He's not making a political statement though. He's just he puts this iconic cover, and we could say I don't know what the heck is going on.
Johnson's a political statement. I think
he was the face. His face was on Time magazine, which at the time Joan Baez's picture will also appear in Time magazine.
But I think the fact that Johnson is on Time magazine as Man of the Year,
because he was popular at that time,
and that's epitomizing like the war and the activism. It's like a fuck you to Johnson. Like, you're the Man of the Year. That's how I took it. Like,
I don't see it that way.
Really? You don't see it like?
No, I see it differently. I'm seeing it like
time capsule, maybe.
I think it's more of a time capsule idea, but also it could be a jab at the because look at the records, right? Like we kind of talked about that are there. See, I always thought that he's taking a jab at the intellectuals, in my opinion. Like I don't. I don't know, but it's hard. It's a strange album cover, very iconic, like very rock and roll.
I mean, I when I saw the Johnson thing, I equated it with protest.
Oh,
Vietnam, like he was really protesting Vietnam a lot, and there's your guy Johnson who's sending those troops out there killing kids.
Wait, was Dylan really protesting the war song? I know before, but there's new records?
Well, I'm talking about even prior to that.
Yeah, you're right.
Definitely protesting the Vietnam War, and Johnson was, Kennedy, wish I knew the exact date when he died. I think it was 62, because he got us in the war, and he was a great president. No diss to Kennedy. He was a great president. Nobody really knew what was going to happen.
Oh, by the way, bringing it back home in blues music means to return to the root note. So it could be going back to the basics or back to the beginning. Just a little fun fact about the album title.
You had to go back to the one, because there's four.
Go back to the one, the roots.
The blues, you have 1, 4, 5.
There we go. They're bringing it all back home.
La Bamba, 1, 4, 5. Louie, all 1, 4, 5. So I think we covered everything. The only thing I have left is a complete unknown, and I'm going to leave that to you. You want to just talk about the movie maybe not a spoiler
Yeah.
alert, give
No,
weird.
no. Go out and see the movie. In my opinion, it's the greatest of the year. It's phenomenal, but it's so strange. It doesn't give you too much insight into Dylan the man, but more of the movement of the time of him going from the folk scene, his meteoric rise within the folk scene, Greenwich Village scene, to his turn to electric, and it without going too much spoilers, but I don't think it's really a spoiler. It culminates in his controversial Newport folk performance where they begged him, "Don't go electric, don't go electric," and what does he do? He goes electric and pisses off people and
Yeah,
but it's funny. The movie is very mysterious in that it doesn't really give you an explanation as to why he went electric. The movie just shows you. But we know why, and as we discussed
yeah,
at length, Dylan at this point was getting influenced by the rising rock music sound,
yeah,
and the folk. I was actually explaining this to my mom, where folk is all good, but it was definitely at that point genre was going to
no,
be left behind. So
yeah,
you either listen to the sign of the times, and again, talk about bringing it all back home. And in my opinion, now I'm covering Dylan is showing you the sign of the times.
yeah,
That's why
yeah,
he has it all laid out. And even the inclusion of that girl in a red dress, fancy looking, him actually pretty well dressed on the album cover, you holding a cat.
yeah, yeah,
Like it shows you so much things of the time. Um, but the movie tracks his rise from folk to electric and ends at the moment he performs at the Newport Folk Festival.
yeah. And he kills it at that festival. He
Oh,
really,
and the movie did such a great job showing you that. Like I was getting so excited in the movie theater because you see like the the volume goes loud. Pete Seeger, I think I mentioned this. It's not a spoiler, but Pete Seeger is so pissed off. He's looking for an axe because
that's
they don't
right.
let him turn down the volume. The show organizer gets in a fight with Dylan's manager, actually, I think, because he wants him to turn it down. He's like, no, no, no. Look at the kids. They're loving it. And you see Dylan just howling and Mike Bloomfield just
Oh man.
wailing on that guitar. Like dude, it's
Oh,
punk and
I
metal.
I might be wrong, and maybe you could look this up. I think Sunhouse was at that folk festival.
I think he was.
So he was playing with his idols. Now you know the story about Sunhouse.
I think, yep, yep. And matter of fact, I think they showed me the movie.
Yes, Sunhouse made a comeback because Sunhouse was huge from like 1930 to about 34, 35, Robert Johnson era. And all those guys were like, in the clique, Skip James, Buka White, who else did I say? Robert Johnson and Sunhouse. And I can't think of this other guy's name. It's driving me crazy. Johnny Shines, Robert Lockwood Jr. Um, uh, Willie Brown was a
Mm.
harmonica player. Who they used in the movie Crossroads. There really was a Willie Brown. Oh, Honey Boy Edwards. Honey Boy
Mm.
Edwards. It's like iconic blues guy back then. So those are the big names from like 31, 34, 35. That's like
Yeah, he played at the festival.
so Sunhouse vanishes from 35 to
Hmm.
like, what year was that festival? 66, 65?
It was like a recurring thing, but when Dylan performed was 64.
So if I'm right, Sunhouse vanishes like for like 40, 50, 20 years practically. He's gone. But nobody fucking knows what happens to the guy. He was working at a restaurant as a cook, goes out to get a cigarette break, and he starts to sing, I don't know what song, but I'm just going to say Death Letter Blues. And there happens to be a promoter. And he's like, oh my God, you're Sunhouse. And Sunhouse is like, maybe, you know, he's like, look, dude, you got to come back. There's a whole revival. There's a whole scene because of you. People, there's this folk
No, I,
movement.
I think in the movie, I think that there's a musician, and I think it's Sunhouse that
And
Dylan plays with, and he's They show him and Johnny Cash too, by the way.
Yeah. And they tell him, and he's like, there's a revival on my music. Now he just thought like he's singing the blues, like no one's listening, like who gives a fuck? Like he's just out there. But he didn't realize that his records that he made got out and he's famous. It's almost like In Search of the Sugar Man, the movie that came out a few years back.
Mm.
It's out there and he's like, oh my God, there's a whole audience. So that was like
Right.
his revival. So Sunhouse was making a comeback at that era.
I think it stopped there though. I think the Dylan and other rock bands took his sound and just
No, I think Sunhouse, like, was underground. Like, I think, like, he eclipsed a little bit in the 60s and he did his stuff, but he kept playing until he died. He had a second career. You know
oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
Also, the Newport folk helped him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sunhouse had a second career, where,
That's
like,
cool.
and the legend has it, like, I think they went looking for Robert Johnson and they found Muddy Waters.
Oh wow.
This is a fun fact. Buka White's cousin or nephew, Buka White was either an uncle to B.B. King. They were related somehow.
Oh wow.
So it's like, but they went looking for Robert Johnson and they end up finding Muddy Waters and we're like, oh, fuck Robert Johnson. He's probably dead. So we got Muddy Waters, Just a fun fact. But
Yeah,
that's
that's amazing.
so cool. Sunhouse is in the movie.
Oh no, so in the movie, no. So it's a fictional bluesman, Big Bill Morganfield, but most likely inspired by um Sunhouse. Those blues
The fictional name is Big Blue Morgan Man.
Big Bill Morganfield.
Yeah, it's Sunhouse.
Wait. No, it says here the blue. Oh no. So the blues guitarist Big Bill Morganfield plays this fictional bluesman. Morganfield's involvement has layers. Oh no, so he's an actual blues musician that plays a fictional blues. Yeah, there's a blues guitarist in the movie.
Yeah, and and he's acoustic. He's playing acoustic.
Yeah, and it's one of the coolest scenes where he's playing with Seeger. Seeger introduces him. Dylan comes, and then Dylan joins him. It's really cool. And he also makes an appearance at a Newport Folk Festival. So it could be that Sunhouse was.
Because I know Sunhouse reemerged in the 60s. And,
no, but I'm saying, but in the movie, this is, I think, a nod to these type of musicians.
Yeah. And these guys played, like, mainly around Louisiana, Honey Boy Edwards and Johnny Shines, Robert Lockwood Jr., who were all connected to Robert Johnson until they died. And these guys, like, they lived to be, like, in the 90s. They're all dead now, but, like, they were. I've seen so many documentaries on and read so many books on the Delta blues scene. It's Martin Scorsese did a great. If you ever get a chance on PBS, see the blues, how he goes from every era of the blues, up into the 70s, and they talk about Zeppelin and everything. But the Delta, to me, the Delta blues is the best era for blues for me. I'd rather hear Skip James and Buka White and Sunhouse and Robert Johnson than any of that, any other blues, in my opinion. So before we end, how long? Where are we at? Because I can't even see a time anymore.
I think we're in right now because we're at the 3 hour mark. I don't know. Hopefully, people watch by this point, but I think we went overboard.
So congratulations, we did it. We did the longest Cheech and Manny show, but it had to be done.
No. Rush, Moving Pictures is the longest, almost 4 hours.
No.
But remember we filmed in parts.
Oh, okay.
So this is probably the longest live, if anything.
Yeah. So really quick, we'll wrap it up. And I didn't croak or I didn't. Good. I'm very happy. Favorite song? Give me your top 3.
So Maggie's Farm, Bob Dylan's 115th Dream, and It's Alright Mom Only Bladed.
Okay. Mine, I would say Maggie's Farm number 1, Outlaw Blues number 2, and Subterranean Homesick Blues number 3.
Mm-hmm. It's hard because all these songs are masterpieces.
They are, and I hope people enjoyed this episode coming out in conjunction with the movie,
Mm-hmm.
So the life of Bob Dylan. I think probably the most important American artist ever.
Yeah, among them, he's definitely. I'm finding that I appreciate him more because of that. He's as an American in the pop and rock world,
He's the most important
he's one of the most important. Yeah, next
as
to
a poet.
Elvis and Muddy Waters, like the
I
list
mean,
goes on.
I think he's more important because what he did, like he did so much for activism, uh, poetry,
Yeah,
how he weaved folk, rock, gospel, country. He was all over the place. How he
yeah.
inspired the greats like Springsteen. He did so much for music and won all these great awards, Nobel Peace Prize award, just like
No, he
uh,
influenced some of the favorite musicians like the Beatles and mine, Springsteen, because Springsteen started out as him kind of imitating Dylan-esque lyrics and style.
and he
I think,
influenced heavy metal guys like Phil Lynott. Like, I mean, there was a tradition in Ireland for poetry anyway, but like, so he definitely. So I think if you're a young viewer out there, put down the Little Uzi album and put down the Kendrick Lamar album. Hendrick, whatever, Jimmy Kendrick.
uh, Ken Kendrick.
Ken Drake, like Drake, right? Ken Drake.
No, Kendrick.
Bad joke.
Kendrick. Drake is the other
I
loser.
did a bad joke. Ken Drake, little pun there. Uh, I don't know. Put down the Kendrick Lamar album and Little Uzi album, Little Kid album, and
Yeah,
listen.
pick up, bring it all back home. Honestly,
And,
bring it all back home.
yeah, and what's her name again? Taylor Swift. The Swifties, come on, listen to Bob Dylan. No respect to the Swifties and bashing whatever you're bashing when you sing your wonderful lyrics. Come on, bring it all back home. Go to the root note, number one from the
Yep,
five,
yep.
5, 4, 1. So thank you for bringing me out of my funk, my 3-day funk, and I really enjoyed this one, man. It's just this. I enjoy all of them, but I enjoyed this. So this was great. And check out our we'll promote our Instagram page we have right now. I saw you put another clip on there.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
I'll try to put as much clip, like short reels of our episodes.
And we just released Power Windows, so check
Mm-hmm.
it out. Available to watch. And then we have Led Zeppelin 3 coming up with Silkman, with the great Joe Silkman, the expert on Led Zeppelin. And I don't know what else to say about. I think we covered so much in this episode. It's like crazy. So, well, have a happy new year, everyone. And
Yes, sir.
look forward to our podcast in the future because there's a bunch more. Was it Hold Your Fire by Rush?
Hold Your Fire, I think, is next because that's like the last Zoom ones.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to push those. So I think Hold Your Fire might be next, just to continue out their Power Windows, and then
Killers, I think we got.
I think it's. Can I skip because I kind of went forward with the Christmas episode
Yeah, because I was
and
so
published that because I got really excited with that one. But yeah, so next one I think it's Hold Your Fire.
yeah. And then Killers, and then we did Presto too. I
So
forgot.
I'll try to release an episode a week. So for
Yeah.
those following, we'll release a weekly episode.
And I, for those who didn't see the Christmas, I think that was one of our best episodes, man.
Go watch the Christmas one. Don't let Christmas be over.
Yeah, Christmas is all year. And next year it's gonna be
I'm one of those. Christmas is all year. If it was up to me, I'll leave the Christmas tree all year.
exactly. And next year is gonna be tough to top the Christmas one, but we will. We'll top it. We'll come up with something creative. So that note, Manor,
Cheech.
amazing. And this wasn't gonna happen. I was not up to snuff, and I just said, you know what? Let me call him. Let me see what Manny. Manny's off. He's not
I
working.
know, and we had to re-record. It's a very strange episode to try to record and do.
Thank God. Well, I'm not going to say anything because until I shut it off and it says it's complete, But yeah, we had some. I was freezing up like crazy. I think I had Spotify left open. That's probably why.
That's okay. It's just that you have an old phone, too
Yeah.
little memory. So it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah, but this worked. So, all right, man. Till our next episode. And Nanu, uh, an old term from the 70s. And we will see you next time. And to the young generation, can't emphasize enough. Bob Dylan, Bob Dylan, Bob Dylan. Bring it all back home. 1965. Please listen
Yeah,
to that.
bring it all back home.
I probably that and Blonde on Blonde are my favorite, probably my favorite Dylan albums. Blood on the Tracks. I don't know.
Oh, these are all masterpieces. Yeah, we need an episode for each one.
We should do one on Blood on the Tracks. I was in a,
That's my favorite, like one of top.
I was in a band that covered a lot from that album. I did a lot of Dylan from my 40-year career. Playing.
You know the song "Idiot Wind"?
Yep, know that
I
one.
love that song.
Keep Me in the Morning, my favorite. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And on Blood on the Tracks, there's some more Dylan, tidbits. He used local like guys from the area, guys that were just playing around Woodstock. He just said, "Hey, you want to play with me?" Like, imagine that, yeah, we'll play with you. And great.
Yeah.
The bass player, but the guy's got what a great bass tone.
Mm-hmm.
Me in the Morning is such a great bass line, and it's not like Bob Dylan. You're going to be thinking like, oh, he's got great bass lines. That Blood on the Tracks is real like 70s, production and great, raw guitar work.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Mike Bloomfield, check him out. One of the greatest in the band, of course. Check the band. So, a lot of information in this episode. So check out Bob Dylan, put down the Taylor Swift, and get out there and go and see him. He's still touring, for God's sakes, before he dies. He's like 85, guys up there. And this album is 60 fucking years old, and we're still talking about it.
I still listen to it, and probably one of the best.
I mean, it's 2000. What is it? 2025. This came out in 1965. It's insane. Insane when you think about it. Like, that's like going from 1960 to 1900. Like, you wouldn't be analyzing, W.C. Handy in 1960. I don't think. No, I don't know. But the question is, in 60 years, will there be two music scholars analyzing Kendrick Lamar and Little Uzi and Taylor Swift?
Could be joined by a certain DJ and without mentioning too many names, but
I don't think those people are gonna make it through the garbage that's gonna be left on top of them. Music is like almost like a garbage dump now. You know what I mean? It's like garbage being piled on top of each other. I mean, it sounds like a really fucked up thing to say, but I grew up in the golden years. You grew up in the golden years, So 60 years.
Golden years, but I realized maybe not so golden.
No, but like, the golden years. Like, well, you grew up, you got the grunge, and you got some of the other stuff, but I just think that it's just garbage on top of garbage and garbage and garbage, and you'll dig through it, and Taylor Swift will be, oh yeah, remember her? She won't even be mentioned in 60 years. Beatles will. Dylan, they'll be in it alive. But on that note, always a pleasure, Manor.
Always, Cheech. Till next time.
Till next time, man. You have a good one.
You too, man. Next episode. Stay tuned.
Yep. Take care. Later.
All right.